We are now going to reveal the 2026 Asian Games Korean national team. And obviously, with T1's success among the fans and at Worlds, we want to ensure that there is not a single whiff of bias, because obviously, this is the Korean national team, after all, not the T1 national team.
Okay, the first pick at the support position will be Carrier of T1.
Obviously, very understandable. Carrier, arguably best support in the world, maybe even the GOAT support. So that makes perfect sense.
Second pick will be Faker of T1 in the mid position.
Maybe controversial. Chovy, BDD, they're performing out of their mind. And, Faker, obviously, most decorated player of all time. He is the GOAT of the game in terms of the representation and the experience. You can rationalize it, even though there might be better performers than him right now.
At the ADC/bot lane position, Gumayushi of Hanwha Life Esports.
Well, of course, HLE, arguably best team in Korea right now. Any connection to T1 or the Gen.G roster is just coincidental. He's not a T1 player after all. He's not a T1 player. We think of him as an HLE player. We don't think of him as a T1 player, right? So, at the same time, we know the synergy with Keria. We know they can, definitely do some damage together. So let's be careful with any accusations here of any T1 bias.
The fourth pick in the top lane, Zeus, Hanwha Life Esports.
Zeus, okay. I'm wondering what the considerations here, because Keen has been dominated for such a long time, and Zeus went last time and so forth. I get he's an HLE player, but the T1 connection is there. This all just kind of looks like T1 at this point. This just looks like the Gen.G roster, so I'm assuming the jungle must be just owner, right?
Pass this shit. It's better if you can't walk and get to that. Oh, sorry. Canyon. It's going out like this. It's going out like this, Canyon. Imagine it. No, but seriously, it's Canyon. That's it. We just cut it out. Anyway, you see what I did there? So basically, obviously, the gag I was making, as I sort of predicted, was that for ENC, and in this case, Asian Games, the real actual political nightmare isn't anything like who gets to decide the squad or anything. The actual nightmare is, right now, Faker wouldn't be a top 2 pick, would he? In fact, he wouldn't even be a top 3 pick right now. Actually, probably the craziest part is you can tell who hasn't kept up on LCK, because they don't realize actually Zeka's earned a spot right now. Chovy apparently didn't want to play in this, so he's not there. But then obviously the other one would be BDD, wouldn't it? Look at the two teams that have run this split. It's obviously KT and then now Hanwha Life. So the joke is, how are you ever going to crowbar Faker? So what I did with the skit there, to be cheeky, was I set it up that the only reason it's viable that you can have these players is because they're losing the loophole that they're not T1 players. The other two are they? Obviously Zeus and Guma are good picks right now. But the punchline, as you can see there, was the actual most outrageous thing isn't even the whole thing of why is it Faker and not BDD? It's how did Canyon just get in there at the end? Bro, listen, it's one thing to pick the T1 players because they just won Worlds, right? Or in the case of Faker, he's the most legendary player ever. He's the shot caller, and the other ones are totally fine with it. The other three, Kerry and Zeus and Gumayushi, are actually totally fine picks right now. But the idea that at the end of all the play, it's one thing if Chovy says, "I don't want to play." Keen not being considered, as Arnold says on Twitter, pretty interesting conversation. How at the end Canyon gets it, I actually have no fucking clue, man. That is the weirdest one of all, don't you think? We'll start with this because it's going to be the first topic. Let's forget the T1 thing for a moment. We can get into that drama in a minute. What do you think about this Canyon pick? How did Canyon just get in the jungle position, mate? This is some bizarre. Let's they're going off 4 years ago or so. What are we picking him for?
It's very strange. The first thing that I wanted to understand right away was the criteria in terms of the time span. And
Yes.
a lot of the results that are cited as 2025, 2024. So I'm assuming it's just the last 2 years. And in that context, you kind of zoom in, and the additional layer of all the context is that they don't count MSI for some reason. EWC I understand, but MSI is only the World Championship and any LCK competition. And the additional layer that the LPL wasn't even considered as something. because an additional part of the drama was that Viper went to KeSPA to complain because apparently his decision to go back to Korea was related to Asian Games, and then Ruler was picked from, of course, the LPL.
Oh, right.
And he thought he couldn't, and then he was in Korea for in the LPL for this year, and apparently he wasn't considered because he wasn't a part of the competitions that were considered. So there is some actions being taken from some players' agencies to actually fight the decision, but I doubt anything's going to change because if after the announcement someone's going to make a change, it would be a complete, absolute mess because all the teams.
What this is teaching me here, Yamato, is like I thought that Ruler and Viper were on the same social status and rug, No, it turns out Viper is still just that like fucking guy with the hard hat on, just working hard, working class guy. Ruler's like one of the aristocracy where he's just getting wherever he wants, mate. He's getting away with tax fraud. He's fucking around getting into teams and he's not into. He's getting calls up from China while he's in his summer home, Viper's like, can I get a fucking Brit? It's mad, isn't it? Like, what the? That basically implies he only joined Animal Life to get in this fucking team and got like the exemption on some shit. Yeah.
It's so oddly specific, the MSI not being counted and then LCK and Worlds. It's like just removing MSI serves only to remove credit from Gen.G players, which makes it weird for two reasons. Is why is Canyon there if MSI is not counted? And Gen.G, obviously their biggest results were at MSI. And at the show we've said many times, we think that the MSI is such a legitimate tournament because it's best of 5, double elimination, true in terms of like the competitive integrity of the tournament is the highest that we have in the entire league ecosystem. So with that being said, it's very strange, the metrics. I understand like mentioning that you go off of statistics, but that should just be a qualifier for you then to make a deeper assessment of what you wanted to do. And the last time the Asian Games roster was made, it was partially controversial. I remember there was a lot of stress out there, but in the end, like they did pick like the best individual performers. I do agree with the notion that the one that stands out the sorest is definitely the Canyon one. But if you want to go off of the last 2 years' results, Canyon did have periods where it was really good. But looking at it now and looking at maybe the more recent, if we just isolate the last year, then definitely it does look very strange, very bad indeed.
Yeah, there's a couple of angles here. Like, first of all, one of the problems I think they've run into already with this particular edition of the squad is, even though, as I pointed out, the obvious joke sort of thumb, most of all is actually Canyon, because has Canyon ever actually been the best jungler while he was in Gen.G? Not for me. Like, even if he was, it was one of those ones where it's like, it would have been obscured by the fact that like he had amazing players elsewhere in the team, especially the solo lanes, which is obviously the biggest like boost ever that a player can have if they play the jungle. So I personally think already it's kind of nut teasing there. Like Oda isn't playing great now, but like he was fucking cooking last year. He was unbelievable. Like also again, if you can be like Ruler and be in the LPL and get it, well, Tarzan can't have this spot. Like, mate, look, I know he can't win MSI Worlds, but that's not really his fault, is he? Pretty fucking good player. So instead, right, I'll give you another angle you could have gone with, but this also doesn't make sense for the Canyon pick, which is there's two ways you can pick a national team. You can either just do it on pure merit for each player and at the end make a squad out of them, or you can do it a bit like we do in football, where there are famous cases of people who are really good getting left out because the coach doesn't think they'll actually fit the squad as well. Like he wants the player that makes the team in the server or on the pitch win, right? Now, what's funny is if you look at the way it's selected, look, I actually do think, by the way, they cynically just tried to get all this EDOG, FGK players, and they knew that that'll be like really popular. In fact, in some ways, isn't it kind of cool if you are a former T1 fan? Like you get to see most of them play together again and see if they have some cool synergy in 2026 or whatever. But it looks to me actually like the reason you've also done that is like I did in my joke reasons that I gave you for the intro. Also, you can justify that they can all play together. Like, by the way, is there like, as you see now in Hammer Life again, turns out that Zeus Gumayushi combo is pretty fucking straight fire. Like, yeah, that's what Zeus says unlocks for Gumayushi. They can play off each other and let each other carry. Obviously, we all know Faker and Kerry is a fucking sick combination too, isn't it? Probably the best like shot caller, secondary shot caller we're imagining in the game right now. And then obviously you can similarly say Kerry and Gumayushi have they ever looked as good as together? Probably not, right? But then obviously the Canyon one's weird. Like, here's what I want to throw in here is if you're going to go that approach of more like, I'm assuming it's not really just putting T1 players in. You also want players that work together and you could win together, etc. And in this case, even though I do think the Faker one's egregious, which we can get to in a second, I think you've also done it because you want like a leader and a shot caller and a winner and that sort of thing. So there's even a justification for the Faker one, even though I personally wouldn't do it. The problem then becomes the Canyon thing just ruins all that synergy. Like we have no reason whatsoever to believe Canyon could have been in T1 of that exact era. Think about how closely Ona used to basically follow fucking Faker like his dog around the map all the time, mate. Like, again, Zeus, if anything, could sometimes just live being weak side so that Ona didn't have to come top. He could just go with Faker and gank the bot lane, couldn't he? Like, if any, I don't know how Canyon fits that. That already ruins the whole argument you did it for synergy. And then also, even though I do personally think actually that Zeus is the best hybrid top laner ever, blah, 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 all the rest of it, right? You could make a very strong case, and let's do it now, as Arnold did on Twitter, of like, wait a minute, isn't that also Keen's specialty? And also, I'll just throw this out there. Mate, here's where the Faker one does actually stick in my craw a little bit, as we say in English. And then after this, let's just get some thoughts on all these players. I'll tell you where the Faker one doesn't work, is that you still have put Zeka in there. You've put Zeka probably as a backup, right? Because right now Faker isn't in his best form and maybe you don't want to play him in all the games. The problem with that would be, if we're going off pure merit, surely it would be Zeus and Keen both in the top lane. Why don't they get to have the sub position? You know what I mean? Like, what? Essentially, I agree with sort of Arnold. Like, what has Keen done wrong that he doesn't get to be in this list? Like, that guy's also, by the way, been an absolute stud the last couple of years. People will even forget, I'll just throw this out there finally, by the way. People will even forget that in 2024, he was the one that was good at Worlds. It was fucking people like Chovy that was shit in the bed. Actually, Rule had a pretty bad, you know what I mean? Like, he was fucking dope, that one. So what do you think of the actual selections? Like, would you have gone a different route? Do you think is it a mistake that people like BDD, Keen get left off the list and don't get to be? What do you think of the sub situation? Assuming that's what it is.
I feel like the process was a little bit different the last time because there was so much visibility on the coach and how the coach made the selections. So Coma was under very visible stress. We got like snippets from interviews and so forth, and it was a very tedious process. And here it's just basically like KeSPA posting the roster. They do have a coach, but he doesn't have the same kind of connection to the roster in the same way. I remember reading as well, there was the comment of like who they think can contain Bin. Like if that's your rationale, like how you want to rationalize getting Zeus, I don't mind that. I think Zeus is a fine pick. It's just that the stated criteria is just so awful because there is a clear lack of consistency across the board. I do think that already some of the things we mentioned, the MSI thing and so forth, is very strange. Keen, I think that over the last two years, this split, his underperformance in the beginning was a surprise. Like, and it's not like he's playing bad. It's just he's not playing as good as usual. It's basically just the Chovy of top lane in terms of the range and how good he's been the entire time. Because Zeus, outside of the first split of last year, for example, was very quiet. Like he was not breaching top 2 the entire year. He was quite ineffective in a very specific meta. And I think that the transparency, the added layer of transparency here, just kind of reeks of BS. Like in terms of how these decisions are made. It's kind of like the lack of consistency is just what's so weird. Because it looks like they tried to make certain people happy in certain like aspects, while like not putting in Owner, putting in Canyon, and then putting in Faker, but then like in the same vein not putting in Keen. Like it's just I don't know. It's as if like a set few of people got to pick like each role, and then this is what we ended up in. There's just no consistency in the process. That's just what's so weird. Because definitely, like we can sit here and rationalize everything, which is fine. Like I think Zeus, okay, Zeka, Faker, as you mentioned yourself, we can easily like rationalize it and figure out the angle. But all these picks at the same time is what makes it so weird.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, that's what I was going to say. The real problem here is I have a look. It's not like something an epiphany I had. It's because I'm autistic, bro. I just like there to be rules and them to make sense and them to be applied. Because that way I can figure out what's going on, right, and why someone chose to do something somewhere. So one of the things that bombs me out about this is there actually is no coherent criteria that would fit all 5 picks, as you're saying. Like, I'll give you an example. Let's say you were just doing current form. Right, off current form, by the way. Sayers can be on there, Gumush can be on there, Kerry can be on there, but why the fuck are Faker and Canyon there? Like, they're just like, hello, I'm from like 5 years ago. Like, what's that? Like, that's nothing. Then if you want to go the other route of like, why not pick players that can play together, proven? Well, ZOFGK has been the best internationally, technically. I guess you can argue some of the Gen.G, like, but they haven't won as many worlds, to be fair. They only had those rosters and changed the 5th player, right? Well, then put order in. That also doesn't make sense that Canyon's there either. Like, if you're going to go the ZOFGK thing, by the way, the joke would be, even though I would have gone mental if you'd have actually done it, you could legitimately do it because 3 of them are on T1 and the other 2 aren't. Like, you're just using historical synergy there. That would even be, but you haven't done that. And then also, if you're just going to go off who was the best for the last 2 years, which is the bullshit they're claiming, then the roster would be something like what I would have picked, which is this. It would probably be Keen top lane, Tarzan jungle. I think mid lane would have to be Chovy can't play right now, so it'd have to be BDD. I think that's the obvious pick. He's been awesome last 2 years as well. I would probably say Viper for ADC collectively. By the way, I also understand if you're Viper, why you're pissed off. You just went and won first stand as well. Like, what more? By the way, you do a lot. We even missed this, by the way. A lot of people did because we all forgot there's only been 2 first stands. Viper won both of them, bro. Like, that's actually pretty gangster at this point in time. So, but apparently, it doesn't get you jack shit in fucking Korea. And then lastly, Kerry would be probably the obvious pick for support. Like, but again, notice how different that team is overall. So right now, it doesn't look like there's any rival. In fact, the worst thing is, I agree with you. What they've done, like politicians, because by the way, even though I'll remind people, this is technically Asia Games, whereas the other drama was actually about ENC. It's basically the same drama. It's who do you get to pick for a national team in Korea? When, as we can see here, it's obviously political how you pick the players. Like, you didn't have a set criteria about winning in the game or performance. There was nothing. What you actually did was you tried to do what a politician does, which is you make people, if not be totally compensated for what they want, you make them feel like you've given them what you call a gesture towards them. So what you've basically done is, by the way, I'll tell you why I think Canyon's in there, bro. Canyon's actually in there, even though this is backfired, to stop what just happened, which is Gen.G going, wait a minute, none of our players get to be in the Korean national team. Like, it's one thing that Chovy turns it down, but the idea none of them get to be in. Well, instead you can go, no, look, we put Canyon in. It's like, that's like some shit concession of Gen.G, right? Then, if you are fucking Hanwha Life, who apparently has the most money, well, you've got your 2 current informed players. That's awesome for you, right? And Zeka technically is the sub or whatever the fuck. So it's worked out fine for you. If you're T1, by the way, you're actually loving this on some level. I mean, the joke is your fans even get fan service for the roster they wish currently plays for T1. That doesn't even play for T1. If anything, like, this is the ultimate T1 fan dream, isn't it? To have this roster. But the problem is, at the end, if I am people, most notably like BDD and Viper, I'm just sat there like, so what do I have to do? Just join T1? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is mental. So I think it's nuts, bro. And then lastly, the Faker one isn't just for the ZOFGK type thing. That's because he's Faker. Like, I'll tell you the real problem they have with the Faker pick, bro, and it's this. Even though, as I said, if you're making a team to actually fit the game in the server, there is a very viable reason to pick him, which is the only mid lane shot caller, and he has this amazing record historically, right? The real problem, I think, is this. You'll see this soon with Messi, bro. It's not for this World Cup. It's if he plays one more World Cup, which is if he plays the next World Cup, at that point in time, he'll have been so many years removed from a real football league, bro. You're just picking him because if you win, you want him to be part of it. You know what I mean? You don't want to win the championship and then not have him there because it'll feel weird if he's still an active player. That's what it feels like with Faker. It feels like because Korea should win all these competitions, you just want him to get another medal because he's the GOAT, so why not chuck another medal on the pile, you know? But I do feel like, especially the BDD one, if I'm BDD, this is just fucking whack, bro. Like, I'm playing my heart out every game for like 2 years straight. Like, also think about how bad his teams are. Like, mate, this is actually kind of like disrespectful. I think it's funny that Arnold's obviously obsessed with his player, Geen, etc. Other people might care about the job. It's actually the BDD snob that hurts me the most, mate, because that one just feels like, can't I at least be the sub? Like, again, if we're going off, if Faker gets to be in based on what he can do, why does Zika get it over me? You know what I mean? Like, bro, I almost won worlds with fucking Perfect and Peter, the 2 Ps. I almost won worlds with my PP just right out there swinging in the wild. I don't want to. Bro, that's pretty studly. It's pretty sick in it, I know.
BDD is just He's doing everything on hard mode, man. It's like
He is.
even the politics, everything is
Yeah.
is on hard mode. It's just like just to remind everybody of the 2023 roster. It was so obvious it was just based on current
Oh,
form.
it's really
'Cause
good. Yeah, yeah.
that was Zeus, Hanavi, and Chovy, and then of course we had Ruler, Keria, and then Faker as the sixth
Yep.
man.
By the way,
And
what a
that was
great
just
roster. Excellent.
pure on current form.
Yep.
This is the for those who don't have
And
forgotten somehow
unlike what you're
2023
saying,
Gen.G.
notice how fair they were to Canavi on that one. They didn't treat him fucked up because he's in the LPL and snub. I actually think that was that committee nailed it, man. They killed that one. That was an excellent choice. Yeah.
Yep. And even now, based on that, I just it's confusing. I wonder if you know if we think from the other side, if the only difficulty, right, is that you can't send more than 3 players from the same team. It's like we could have a real chance where the Chinese team could win, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's a real possibility, just based on like BLG's form.
I mean,
and,
logically, they just put 3 BLG players and then 2 others, right? They can have a really strong team this time, mate. Yeah, absolutely.
just get the BLG top side, and like I can see Shun doing mean things to Canyon. It would be funny
Yeah.
if that's the outcome of it all.
Yeah.
I thought an angle would be that maybe they're going to prioritize players that already that don't have their medal secured, but obviously like doing that they would have to be like very careful, and then maybe it wouldn't be looked upon as serious, because obviously Kerry has already exempt Faker as well, Zeus as well. They were part of the previous one. So they definitely didn't lean into that. They leaned into different things. It's odd. It's very strange. Like at this, I do feel like the Canyon lock-in is only, as you mentioned, just for the purpose of like, look, it isn't all T1 players, and it's strange, definitely. So Tarzan is in the same BDD boat, right? It's like these two guys have just played long careers of suffering, so they just don't get to be included or involved in anything.
No, assuming
Painful.
they're running, which I'm assuming they do on all these teams, that you can only have 3 players from the same team. Basically, all I would do, it's actually obvious, Yamato, is I would just take topside BLG and then the bot lane of JDG, mate. I think right now that's the obvious pick for me. That would be the best players. Like, you can certainly say it's people like Asham on NIP have been awesome, but again, he's like a nobody player, mate. That's just this split in it. So, but if I look at those 2 teams, those are the parts of the map that just run the game, basically. In the same way as the last year, around this time, if you remember, the team everyone would have made for Europe, you just do topside KC, bot lane Fnatic, when it was the upset of Mickey bot lane that used to wreck everyone. So, and by the way, if you made the squad I just said, man, I think that beats the Korean team. Like, again, you could. One thing we're not even actually considering with the ZOFGK thing, and I want to see how this works, bro, is mate, even when they used to play together, they used to have splits that were off. Like, what if they just don't synergize together anymore? Remember, they've all been playing with different players now for a while. Like, look, I'm pretty sure for people like Faker, you can work with people like Zeus. The question is, like, what's it like for Zeus to work with the others again? Like, who the fuck? And by the way, who knows how any of them work with Canyon? Maybe none of them work with Canyon. Also, I'll give one last thing though. To be fair, as a result though, the person who could actually sort of do the most in this roster to redeem their reputation is Canyon. If Canyon somehow plays differently than how he did in Gen.G, and he's like super awesome at like servicing Zeus and working with Faker, that would actually make me give him sort of some props or some respect in some way I don't currently. Because right now, this actually, it's like I said, if anything, they've saved Faker's ass by putting Canyon in there, because then it's like you don't deserve to be. That's like that meme everyone loves of all those like US troops where they're going to go around a corner to do a tack up, and there's the clown in there, and there's among all the like. He's the fucking clown in this case, which is mad to think of, by the way, because a few years ago he'd have been a lock, wouldn't he? Like, you'd take him every single time when he was in his Dab 1 era. But that, as we pointed out many times on this show, to some degree, he's actually been one of the more boosted players the last few years when you look at the rosters he's had, and now he's just had some like mid-arse splits, and then even internationally. He's just lucky, bro. He plays with Chovy, because every time they lose, I notice everyone goes, Chovy choked, and they don't say anything about Canyon. I told you, it's that the problem with narratives is once you've already won worlds, you can't ever be a choker to some people. You know what I mean? Whereas to me, I always make this point. What if Chovy at the end, because it's happened to Device in Counter-Strike, what if at the end in like 2 years, Chovy wins like 2 or 3 of the worlds at the end? When people then retcon his career, it'll be fine. It'll be one of the greatest ever. But what's bizarre is that'll make him actually way more successful than Canyon was. But Canyon, because he won 1 billion years ago, gets to just 6 years later, just chill and be on like international teams. Seems a bit weird to me. So I think that one's egregious. Although I will point this out though. I'll just put this out there, Arnold. Notice you didn't complain about Canyon being picked. Mate, Come on, son, by your own logic. Think of all the criteria you listed in that post. Well, that'd definitely kick your boy Canyon the fuck out, wouldn't it? Like, even though I know what you mean, you're just doing your part of, you're doing the key one, and it should be up to, a T1 guy to say that it should be owner instead of him. Or actually, I'll tell you the last one to say is this, Yamato, and then we can move on. Here's the other reason why I don't like that the criteria is a bit from here and a bit from now and a bit from then and a bit from a name. It's because I'll tell you another person who's gotten completely fucked on this one, which is, wait a minute, if we're picking these players right now, like, wait a minute, Guma's in there. Well, that was just because of right now when they're owning everyone. If I'm Kanavi, I'm also like, well, why don't I get to play? One, I'm back in Korea. I moved here again, like the Viper thing. And two, I'm on Animal Life as well, and we're doing really well. Like, if we're just going, like, look, if we're going off currently right now, yeah, Order and Canyon both are in great form. Maybe it's my time to chat. You know what? Even anyone's edge loses a lot. Maybe you don't want Tarzan because he's in the uphill. Kanavi sat there like, hello, can I get in the team? Like, what do you think of that? Because if you're going off current form, he would be a player that should be on the list, right?
Yeah, I think in terms of current form, Kanavi has been the best performing jungler, right, in the league. It's like everyone's gonna point to maybe the KT series that he played recently wasn't the cleanest one, but it's like just the rest of the volume must be is just insane. I don't know when the exact cutoff point where it was, right? So it's like tricky when it comes to HLE, but it also is a counter argument against the other HLE players because HLE not too long ago was last place.
Yeah, think about it. That's like, let's be real. When it was last split, bro, I think we all hated on both Kanavi and Guma. They weren't fucking doing anything. They were like the new additions, and they sort of failed, right? So, no, you're right.
Oh, it's just such a different process than the last time because we had a face on it, and there was a person to blame. There was a clear, like, rational thinking. There was a face. It wasn't vague.
Yeah.
And the last time, at least this time, in context of everything that we mentioned, this time I am a lot more excited to watch those games because last time we mentioned the roster that was built in 23. That was just the most broken roster of all time. So even like the best Chinese team lost two of their best players, so it wasn't like the same at all when they competed, of course, at the Asian Games. So this time around, it's going to be a lot more exciting to watch, and I'm also curious to see because I know the deadline has already passed. It's like what team is going to be sent then to the ENC? I'm curious if the same things are going to be done, or if maybe there's going to be a different level of interest from players. Maybe that's a thing. But I wonder, like, what if the roster is going to be the same?
You just made me think of something even worse, bro. You just made me even think. Sadly, I've been in esports too long, Yamato, so I can already see, like I did with this one with Fake, I could already see problems coming over the hill. Here's the one that makes the drama go completely insane. Logically, it should be the same roster, especially because remember, they have done that bullshit thing, as you'll see in the Reddit post, where they've claimed they use stats to do this. Like, for example, this is dumb as fuck to me, Yamato, because again, I'll rewind a second. Another thing I'm with you on is this. I love doing these approaches, even for like England football team, as long as you have the manager and you know who made the choice, because the point is then the manager gets either the credit or the blame, depending on if it works or doesn't. Like, if you then go to the World Cup and you left out, for example, some amazing defensive midfielder, and then the defense gets their arse wrecked, well, then you can blame that guy and go, that was the wrong decision. On the other hand, if he wins the World Cup, you can go, hey, fair enough, it's a bold gamble, but it worked. Respect to you for your choice. First of all, as you say, it's just like some faces like, this is the team picked. Like, well, who do we blame then? What's the fucking fairies? Who did it? Who made the squad? Who picked this one? And then also, as you're saying, right, I hate the way that they've claimed they did it by stats because, bro, if you really did it by stats, I think you're a moron because, like, stats don't work that way for each of the 5 roles. That's what Arnold was also trying to make the point of. Like, if you notice for Keen, he's trying to point out that basically if Keen ever sacrifices his lane or they don't give him all the resources, then logically he'll just go to Zeus. Like, if Zeus gets played to, especially which he will now with Gumayushi, if they just play to Zeus all day long, well, then he gets to win because all the stats are just going to pump his numbers up, aren't they? It's not about whether he's actually better than Keen. And then also, I'll just throw out this other detail as well, which is if you're going to go off stats, that means logically, if this was last year, you'd have given this spot to Duro over Carrier. Are you mental? Like, on that one, you don't even need to say I did it because of stats. Just pick Carrier because he's better. Like, I actually want you to be biased on that one, mate. Like, I don't care what the stats say. You'd pick Carrier because he's the fucking GOAT support player. Like, that's a good enough reason on its own. So what a strange fucking scenario this is. So here's what my prediction is if you want to get spicy. If KeSPA really is still on some, like, here's the thing. If they're doing it legit, they have to pick this roster. And if they don't, that alone's a scandal. But if they really want to be like, we care about the Asian Games and suck my dick, Ian, ENC. Here's what you do. ENC is just all the other players. It's none of these players. That would be pure bad. Could you imagine the disrespect, Yamato? Because we already know, first things first, don't worry, guys, I will always have my cake and eat it. Not only would you have to, in theory, not put Faker in that one because he's trying to show you disrespect. You don't care about ENC. You only care about Israel. You don't put Faker in that team. So the joke is that team is BDD. Then, of course, it's Kane as well. So there you go, Arnold. We put him want it. You don't give a fuck about that tournament. Then you put whoever you want jungle. And then ADC. That one is... And the joke is, if you really want to make it disrespect, you don't even pick Viper for that one. You pick Rule for that one too. Just like, you know what, Viper's so bad, dick. Like, he just never gets to be in a team. And then for support, I actually think you should just meme. Just put like Peter or something, mate. Just go fucking pure, like, lol. And then just go. And then even worse, because you're KeSPA, just pretend like, there you go. There's the KeSPA official ENC team. We wish them well, and we hope they bring back the cup. Like, it's not even get at all, bro. Because I actually do think, by the way, that's actually why this drama got intertwined with the other one. I actually do think KeSPA cares more about this tournament. As I told people, this is a real sort of like almost like Olympics type vibe among Asian countries. Whereas at the moment, no one really yet knows. None of us do, bro. Even though we keep seeing these like rosters announced, no one yet knows. Is ENC going to feel like almost like the All-Star tournament, which was just a joke thing that everyone just laughed at and just did whatever? Or is it going to feel like a real, European Championship in football or something where you really care about if you win or not? And people, none of us really know. I don't think we can really know till the tournament starts.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. As I can say from my side as well. Like I'm prepping the Swedish team and so forth, and it's hard to know if the qualifier is going to be played, the seeding is going to be determined, how many points are decided by who you send. And like determining how much you practice is also like insanely difficult because some players go deep into their circuit, some players don't. So scheduling and determining how much time you can actually like commit as a group. I think most teams are going to just walk into that tournament with their players, with their coach, and then hoping for the best that it's gonna work out and that you play. And that in itself is going to cause some difficulty. We like it's not even sure where the tournament is going to be held. Like it's a lot of things are very very unclear, and I think the lack of clarity is always going to be the seed of chaos that will show itself as just bring itself as a lot of question marks really.
Well, the thing is, Yamato, if someone was trying to put together an excellent product within their company and they wanted to have a whole team of people who could help them with all different aspects, and then eventually they wanted to scale up and go international, what could they do in their own, as an entrepreneur, as it were, not as KeSPA?
Well, honestly, easily they could just jump on shopify.com/summoning to start the shopify.com, trial. The crazy thing about, making the jump, working your day-to-day job, I'm considering, even starting my own business. And, in a sense, it's very scary because you think to yourself, like, where do you start? How do you actually make the jump? How do you set up a team that is going to help you in a landscape where there's so much competition for almost every single product out there? The massive giants like Amazon or whatever, they are trying to mess your shit up. Like they're trying to eat everything up, and it's just kind of a scary world out there to make that jump, because in order to know for real if your product is going to work or your site's going to work, you also need to kind of, in some cases, spend a lot of money to get yourself going. But with Shopify and this, trial period, $1 for 3 months each, like that part is just insane in itself. You can just jump in, execute your idea. You need to stop talking shit at the bar with your homies and talk about how you hate your boss. You need to actually make the jump. You can get started with your own design studio. I don't know anything about coding. If you do, it's very helpful too, because they allow that option too. You can like code your website and design it all yourself, or you can do it very simple. It's like, I feel like I'm in kindergarten putting like the circular block into the circular hole, because you can just drag and drop and design the website, which makes it so easy to use. There's hundreds of ready to use templates as well that makes it very easy to build and present your website. You also have like this team behind you, in a sense, that will help you with your marketing in terms of making sure that it's efficient, the SEOs and the words that are used to make sure that they show up, in keyword searches. If someone's looking for design t-shirts, and then suddenly you need to have the right words to make sure that you are high up there in terms of the searching score. All very complicated things, but Shopify makes it very streamlined and easy. You can get the word out, like you have a marketing team behind you as well. You can easily create email listings. You can make social media campaigns that make it a lot more personal, which is, of course, a very important aspect nowadays of selling. It's like you want to have the personal touch to it, which I think is very important. It's also in terms of scaling. It's like there's a lot of companies that have been turned into $1 million companies through Shopify. So if you grow, Shopify is ready to grow with you. And if at any point you get stuck, 24/7 customer support, which is, of course, also award winning. So with that being said, it's time to turn those ideas into cash. Cha-ching, cha-ching. With Shopify today, sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/summoning, shopify.com/summoning. Go to shopify.com/summoning. Easy peasy. Make your dreams come true with shopify.com/summoning.
Now, since we're talking about the LCK, we did actually this last week have some of the giga bangers, some of the giant matches. Like we basically had the El Clasico, we had the Gen.G T1 series, and then we had like what would be the two best teams this week with the KT Hanwha Life one run back, and both of them had quite interesting results because it was actually the underdog that won both the games. So if we do the first one, what's crazy, Yamato, is right now, obviously both Gen.G and T1 have both had their slip ups, this split this year in general. And if you look at them as teams, this reminds me of what I always used to tell Monty about the real El Clasico, the KT versus T1 Telecom war, which is because that almost had its own like crazy narrative that would like revive both teams every time. I always used to tell Monty, just matter how bad a KT roster team is, that match would always just bang. It even did this year, remember? There was the one where like they were doing those insane comebacks against each other that were like impossible to do, like in the last split, etc. Right? Mate, the Gen.G T1 series is the same thing. As soon as these teams, you saw it in game one. Game one was like, right, this is just fucking cinema every time these teams play, mate. Like, I actually thought this series was really entertaining. It was a banger. And by the way, mad props to T1 for winning it. Like, that was dope.
That was always fun. I don't know how many games they played in total, Gen.G, like the core of this Gen.G and T1 against each other, because that
It must be the
like the
most ever,
DNA.
surely.
Yeah, 100%. It's just like in terms of the DNA that you build in order, like how you adapt yourself towards your opponent. It's
Yes.
like it becomes very, very specific in terms of how you play. The prep becomes very different because you know how the other person is going to play. You think about like Owner versus Canyon. It's like all the nuances of how the other player plays allows you to elevate your play because it's very evident that that always happens. It's like, now these teams are really dialing in and they're trying to attack each other's weaknesses and then elevate their own strengths in a very unique way. T1 this time around they won out. We had the conversation about Owner and Canyon, and I do feel like the Owner carrier engine has really just it's. On top of the fact that Carrier and Pace are just laning super well, Owner and Carrier are always on the same screen, and I feel like that's the biggest advantage to have over Gen.G. Gen.G's solo laners looked good, but I think in terms of where T1 is meta-wise with the shift, with the Twisted Fate coming into the picture, with some of the bot lane champions also being different, you can see that T1 has actually managed to land quite well. That game they played with Camille support was very beautiful in terms of how they pressured the jungle, created leads the entire series, all series long. They were diving bot lane. The only time that it looked rough was when the dives didn't succeed, when they gave like a double kill to a beautiful like ruler Ezreal play. But I really like what I see from T1 in the sense that I feel their solo laners are finding their niche role within the team. And the driving engine now is like Kerry has been performing like a madman this entire split. MVP caliber, even though T1 is not at the top of the field. Owner is also back in form, and I think that the solo laners are finding their roles within the team because I do think that often they were playing a wide range of champions. We saw like Faker Aurora. We saw like moments where Dora was playing carries and was not successful on it. Now it seems like they are leaning into their strengths, and they are showing a very good time to do so too. We talked about how this LCK split is quite long, and we have 2 rounds. This is a good moment to ramp up and a good moment to beat Gen.G, if any, because the last time around when it was when Gen.G dominated and Gen.G last time they lost to T1 was like in the beginning of a split after MSI, and it's like who cares? It was like whatever. But now this is a very, very good time to find this win because who knows if the standings end the way they do, there's a chance that T1 and Gen.G are going to fight for the second MSI spot because of how things work, right? It's like you have a situation where if KT and HLE end up at the top of the rankings, then they're in a situation where they are the only team that fights for the first seed, and then we're going to have a extremely ruthless battle for the second spot.
Yeah, by the way, this series also was so bizarre, some of the matchup elements that like you just don't normally expect from these two teams playing against each other. Like I'll give you an obvious example. Right. First of all, this is also why you can't be like we just picked on current form for that like KeSPA or Asian Games team. Because if you just saw that Canyon game, you'd never pick this motherfucker. He looked like an absolute bomb. Like he's the whole reason they couldn't actually get back in the game and win it, for fuck's sake. Like he played absolute trash. Then also you got to look at the fact that like I do think actually in this one that it really does show you, mate, in Gen.G. One thing people underestimated the last few years when Gen.G had these amazing regular seasons is, bro, if you were whoever the jungler was for their team or their team in general, you always had solo lanes win. You just had both solo lanes. Chovy won against everyone, like the joke is almost every game for like 3 or 4 years at this point in time. And actually, Keen, if you remember, he either would win or he'd do that amazing like Alfari shit where it's like you just perma-absorb all pressure and you have no resources and you're still even in lane. Like the problem is Gen.G basically have like the most broken playbook ever because their step one isn't a real step one, Yamato. It's like step one, solo lanes win. Like that can't be step one. Like, but their team was so cracked that was step one. Like that's where their whole like how you play the map, where you fucking make the minions go. That everything was based on step one always being a tick box. And in this series, man, that didn't happen. Like not only did Thorin actually do a pretty decent job doing like a weak side fucking top, but fair play to Faker. If you go and look at the box scores, you're gonna think Chovy abused him. Actually, for laning, mate, Faker did a good job this series, like, and especially that last game. Actually, he was fucking pretty legit. So even though Faker's not having a great year in general, I thought he actually was very good in this season. He held up. And then, like, by the way, it goes without saying, the bot lane was a complete whitewash. Like, that was outrageous. Like, T1's bot lane, like, mate, Ruler will be having nightmares about that Camille for fucking ages. That was something. It's like they were just actually trying to fuck his game up specifically, mate. It was nuts.
Yeah, I lost count of how many times they dove bot, like the entire series. It was 4-man bot, 4-man bot, 4-man bot. I like the Twisted Fate. I like the Cassiopeia game. I'm with you with Faker. It's like
Someone made a shit joke on Reddit when they were like, fucking Piers and Kerry are like representatives of the Korean IRS hunting Ruler or some shit, like, because they were just going so deep on him, wasn't it? That's ridiculous.
That's a full audit. It's just complete. No, 100%. It's like, oh, you load into the game, you see, you're happy, you end up Doran with an Ornn, you're happy even if K'Sante is being picked on the enemy team. It's like K'Sante right now is like, in terms of just to highlight, it's like the first game, we saw the Rumble mid, that was very unique. Like they had this big AoE composition that spiked really hard in mid game. You never get to see Rumble and Renekton on the same team, but they have a very, very similar power curves in terms of how powerful they are on 6, and it matched into T1 super well with the AoE compositions. But as the series went on, I did feel like Gen.G's drafting was very dated. I like the changes that they've done to mid lane when it comes to like how Faker's champion pool interacted. I'm a really big fan of the TF. I like the Casio, as I mentioned. But K'Sante is like, I just pulled up the stats because I knew K'Sante has been losing a lot. But in LCK right now, K'Sante is just at the 20% win ratio. This has never been this low. K'Sante is just not a champion that wins at all. And I do feel like this is something that you have to spot because this has been the case this entire split. It's like K'Sante in isolation just doesn't do good enough. He doesn't get into the games when there's no lane spots, there's no activity, and the top lane blinds are just currently a little bit too strong because the K'Sante pick was picked into Jace. I know all the memes about K'Sante, but I do feel like T1 came into the series with a much better meta read, and whenever T1 is on that shit, like when they know exactly what to pick and they have a clear recipe and the driving force and carry and owner are playing well, this team can be very dangerous, like very, very dangerous. And now I'm just looking forward to, because it's like deciphering who is the best team in the SK right now in this moment, after this week, just became a lot more difficult.
Spicy as fuck, aren't they?
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be very difficult. It's also like we're in a situation where week 8 and week 9 is going to be so damn important because of what the format is. Like I mentioned it again, but it's like there's only 2 teams that are going to compete for the #1 seed, and we have if we have a situation where T1, KT, and Gen.G compete for an MSI spot, that's crazy in itself. If HLE, let's say, beat KT and a BO5 for the first seed, so LCK is lining up for some good shit coming up.
What do you think, though, just as a little projection for Gen.G, though? Because as I say, this is a bit worrying, actually, bro, because before you always could guarantee that all lanes were the best or contending for the best. So actually, to me, I never really had a massive problem with Canyon in this team. I always just thought you sort of were able to cover him. And then every now and then, by the way, he has picks that he still could be really good on. Like, first of all, obviously, it goes without saying, don't ever get him on this Pantheon again. Get him the fuck off that pick. I don't ever want to see that ever again. It's complete ass. But also, it does make me concerned if they ever go to an international tournament, bro, and they actually can't get the solo lanes off. Like, by the way, Chovy didn't even play bad in this series. He just couldn't do anything. He was like playing a solo queue game or something, mate. So I do think, like, in some ways, let's see if it matters in the end. But it almost feels like T1 to some degree have actually exposed a little bit more the blueprint of Gen.G that we have. Like, actually, they've just been so good in so many ways in the last 2 years. We haven't really, no one's ever really figured out how to beat them. We all think they beat themselves, right? In some ways, there are some elements of a blueprint to beating them.
No, definitely. I think we just saw it at first stand, the first time. Whenever the jungle support synergy is stronger on the enemy team, it becomes a very suffocating game to play for both Chovy and Keen, unless they completely smoke the opposition. And what do you expect Keen to actually do in K'Sante versus Jace? Like if he goes even, that's a win. What do you expect someone to do in the Cassio matchup that we saw against, of course, Talia? It's like for him to have roam timers and to have prio is already a win. Cassio lanes very well into Talia, especially the new one that can buy shoes. In terms of how realistically you can win, that's why we're always so impressed by these players, because they were warping matchups that we saw nobody else capable of doing. It's like, oh, he's playing Corki versus Talia mid lane, and he's spacing the Talia Q and chunking him out and forcing the Talia base pre-tier. It's like, oh yeah, we never saw this before. This is just warping the whole game in a way that is unrealistic. And I still think that Keen and Chovy are playing well. But if the counterparts are also playing at a decent level, like the slight percentages that they get as edges are just not enough to compensate for the lack of power in the jungle support position. BOG looks like the most dangerous because of how well Shun and On play. It's the same when we look at JDG over the LPL. It's like Vampire and, of course, Junja. It's like in terms of how they pressure the map and how they enable their mid lane and how they just create massive leads. It's always the jungle support as a driving force. You see this across every region, even the KC G2 series. It's like KC can get lane leads because KC is basically like a mirror of what Gen.G is in the LEC, in the sense that they rely on big lane leads and then they get to team fights and they perform and execute very well. But in the in-between, the jungle and support is just dominating the map. And looking at the LCK now, it looks very dangerous for Gen.G because we see now owners in good form. Keria was waiting for that. That's already like a jungle support that you're not even close to competing against in terms of synergy. We look at KT as well. Their success primarily comes from that. Even last year, what was the driving force behind KT doing well? It was their jungle and support actually connecting with BDD and then him being good enough to take those leads and creating matchup states that his jungle and support can capitalize on. And the same is true now. I can even go further with the example. BFX as a team, it's like now you can see that with Taeyeon in the picture, they seem a lot more flexible in what they can do in the game. And suddenly in these games that they're playing, Raptor is actually the carry of their wins because Kellen is connecting with him and they have options in terms of how they approach the game. I think jungle and support is the most important role in terms of how high your floor is going to be and how high your ceiling is going to be in terms of what you can do in the game. Because right now, every other role, you can get yourself lane leads. You can perform well in team fights, but in terms of driving the macro game, there is nothing that can do it as well as jungle and support.
And if we now transition, obviously the other reason why Korea is such a fucking carousel where it just goes around, it depends what week it is as to who's in first place, is if you watch the KT Hanwha Live series, what you needed in that series was Hanwha Live to comfortably win the series, and then we could just crown them, right? You're number one, and then everyone else is battling for second place. The problem is because they've lost to KT, who themselves have looked like weak the last week or two, they've had their own problems. Now, again, no one really knows where anyone's at. Like, if you watch this series, by the way, speaking of, are we going off current form or historically? Because, mate, off current form, this series, Cos looked fucking awesome. He even did exactly the opposite of Canyon. He was dope on the Pantheon, mate. He looked fucking sick. You look elsewhere though, mate. Hanwha Life across the board. It's not just that they lost this series. There are plenty of reasons why they should be looking at this series. Like we have flaws in our own game, mate. Like there was some fucking like there was a really bad there was a really bad Kanavi game in this one, mate. There was a really bad one. There was the fucking game where Zeus was just like not even laning. Like there was some real holes here. Like KT played like about as well as they could. I always look at their roster, mate, and I'm like, you shouldn't be number one. So I give them props to the players. Hanwha Life though, this is why it's hard to trust them, bro. Everyone was just ready to start trusting them, and then this is when they let it go.
It was definitely a lot of strange moments. I think Kanavi stood out as a sore thumb. I feel like kind of gave me flashbacks to like, oh, top esports is an 8 series win streak, and then they lose like this. It kind of gave me flashbacks of that because
absolutely.
it felt exactly like that. It looked exactly like that. I don't know how serious I'm supposed to take that game 3 where we get to see a Draven Milio come through. That just created like a very volatile game from the get-go, and 4 minutes in, the game was already over because of all the fighting that just went KT's way in the bot lane. And
everyone's giving Yushi props as well, bro. This game was complete ass. This was ass.
Yeah, it was a rough one, especially that game 3. It's weird because you know, as strange as it might sound, I feel like HLE losing against KT in this moment is a benefit to them. If they can help KT secure the 2nd seed,
sure,
it's very good for them.
True,
because otherwise they would be on an even score with a T1 right now.
If people don't remember, obviously the silly part of the format is the top 2 teams just go straight into that first match, don't they? So yeah, if anything, it makes the first match essentially if they'll just get to play KT. And if they beat KT, they go to MSI, right? That's the logic, right?
Yeah, I think no matter how KT looked like, I would much rather face KT than a T1 or a Gen.G in the winners match.
Put it this way, we're not in any way, we would never do this, Yamato, not even in a skip. We would never imply that anyone would match fix or do something silly. All I'm going to say is this, Yamato, that game 3 draft that Hanwha Life did right there, this was a world's playoff. You will never I don't care what meta exists ever in League of Legends, you will never see that 5 champion draft ever. I don't know if anyone's ever played that 5. I don't even know in solo queue if anyone's ever played that 5 champion draft, bro. Like that is the most insane fucking draft. That's like you're all trying to. That's like the champion you all wanted to ban. You know what I mean? Like why? There's no way. No one practiced that comp, bro. That comp doesn't exist. That's imaginary. It's fake.
No, 100%. Nah, I'm with you. I'm with you. It's like we like Olaf fine, like we've seen it, but it's like just a mix of Olaf, Nocturne, Draven, Milio.
Have you noticed as well, by the way, you know, there's one thing we need to do one of these days is do what, like maybe in an off season we'll do this. We need to do one of those ones where I'll give you a quick example. In Counter-Strike, I have a joke I always say whenever I'm doing like a watch party or a core stream, which is I always say there's like an unwritten rule in Counter-Strike that even though technically the producer, when everyone's alive, could show 10 different POVs, you've got a 1 in 10 chance, not really, because it depends what you do in the map, but you know, he could be showing anyone. I have a rule that goes, if you ever, as a top pro, just like completely whiff into the back of someone and just miss all your bullets and look like a fool, you're just always unlucky, and they were always actually showing your POV. So all the fans are like, oh, he's fucking shit. And you're like, oh, fucking hell, that was the wrong moment to show. Right? Similarly, right, there are certain champions in League, which even though they have their strengths elsewhere, they just seem to dominate all the worst games. And bro, how many great junglers have had some nightmare fuel Nocturne game where you just look like an absolute bomb the whole time? Like you never get the ult off, you look like a moron, you go in when it's the wrong time. This is like a classic one. And listen, I get why people play it, because on the other side, it can look amazing when you dominate the game and you feel like, lol, why doesn't everyone play this? But this is also why people don't play it, mate, because there's some real bad games on it from some of the best junglers ever.
I don't know, such a miserable Nocturne game to play. It's like you load into the game and then 2 of your lanes is like, all right, we need backup right now. And you're like, I just started killing my raptors, you know?
Exactly.
Just let me reach 6, you know, let me clear my jungle just a little bit. It's just having Olaf top lane and then the Milio Draven matchup. It's like KeSPA's does a very good job of finding very creative gank angles. I think he always finds angles in to break volatile lanes and then to be in those same shoes, especially as a player like Kanavi. You know, it's like, you know, Kanavi is gonna try. He's gonna try no matter how ugly it looks like, which I respect. But that game 3 was so awful that I have a hard time taking many like concrete, things away from that series in particular. I just think that you're in a situation where I don't know. It's like if they play again, I still think HLE should just be the favorite. This just seems such a like a one-off series that shouldn't say much. But if I try to just shadow box in my mind T1 versus HLE, like this would be a very, very exciting moment to see that matchup.
Yeah. Also, I'll just put this out there as well. Obviously, we've only got a couple of weeks left, and as you say, we can already sort of look at the table. Mate, the craziest one of all is this, right? I'm okay with the idea that Gen.G went to first stand. There was something off about their meta read. They played badly as well. Maybe they just travel badly. And then Skewmon had an awesome series. That's fine, right? Then you come back. You've lost the odd game here and there until this last week, and it was still fine. Like, it was okay. Maybe KT just looked awesome at the beginning. Maybe Hand My Life was better afterwards. There's actually a very real world now where the season ends with Gen.G in 4th place, bro. Like, imagine that, because if you think about it, by the way, that means they'll have to win like 2 series in a row to make MSI even. Like, that won't even be easy. Like, there's a real bit. The one thing we have, remember, it's always been T1 that was the one missing shit before. Like, the idea that like Gen.G might miss MSI is crazy, bro. Like, we just took it for granted they'd always be number 1 in Korea. In fact, MSI's a 2-team tournament, even so. You just assume they're going to be there every year. Obviously, they won the last 2. What do you think of that? Because actually, we have to consider right now, unless they do some playoff globe, as of right now, they probably won't be the team that make it Yamato. I would have, personally, I would have picked them and Hand My Life. That were the 2 teams I thought were going to make it. I thought KT's not going to be real in the playoffs. And T1 just looks like, aside from games where Piers carries like this last one, they can look a bit toothless, But actually, Gen.G's starting to worry me a bit now, mate. Maybe they really can miss MSI. Well, I don't know what the fuck that would implications be for the world as well, because remember, before we were supposed to go, you're basically the best team ever, you just haven't won worlds. Like, mate, there'll be a mile off that pace if they don't make MSI. They have to sit at home.
To be fair, though, KeSPA has just confirmed that MSI doesn't fucking matter at all.
Right, true. That was the ultimate weird thing, wasn't it? I know why Arnold's mad about that. What I don't get about that is, again, by the way, without doing a whole rewind, if we're going off like LCK, well, then all the Gen.G players get in. They've won it like 1 million times the last few years. MSI surely has to count. I mean, you can even argue it helps T1. They're always in the bloody finals. Like, what are we doing? I know. Why does MSI not count, boys? That's a fucking sick tournament. Come on.
They're on some like old T1 shit. It's like, there was bad ping one time back in 22 or whatever it was.
Yeah. See, that's actually, you guys don't know, technically Dom, if you ever actually allied with him, would be the most based T1 ally. Because remember, Dom's opinion was, before Double Elim, all those MSIs shouldn't even count. Like, they're just shit tournaments where you just play one match. See, if you're a T1 fan, you should join with Dom. Yeah, who cares about MSI? We don't care. We only care now if they win. Whatever. The only thing is, I don't think there's that much more. Like, we follow LCK every week anyway. Spoiler, like, D+ is now just sat in 5th spot on their own. Like, that's also the FearX Nongshin one. We'll see. That still has to play out. Like, at the moment, that's just a nightmare both ways. Like, one team's actually got better, one team got worse, but who even knows if it'll be relevant for either squad. We already talked about Bro last week. So I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's just switch over a second. I think what we do now is we go and we talk a bit about there was one topic I set up a few weeks ago, if you remember, for NA, which was, and spoiler, we got the answer. I told you what we needed to happen in the LCS, Yamato, to make it really interesting was we needed Team Liquid to give a great game to Cloud. They didn't have to win. You just have to give me like a 3-game banger, because then I can believe, right, you know what? This region's a 3-team region. It's Cloud9, it's Lion. They're already taken for granted because Lion's got inspired and Cloud9's the best team. And then what we needed was Team Liquid to be for real. And if they're for real, you know what? That suddenly gets spicy. Let's see what happens to the player. Spoiler, Team Liquid isn't real. Like, I wanted them to be Dom. It isn't. Dom took care of them. He fucking downloaded them. This is the problem with this league, bro, is they're just beating up all the other teams. The other teams just suck. I'm sorry, they just do. Like, I even FlyQuest, I don't really care about that much. I gave him a little bit of time. Like, I actually think the Griffin player's an interesting player, but beyond that, that roster shouldn't be a team that can win the LCS. Realistically, the LCS is just Cloud9, and I'm waiting to see what Lion do in the playoffs, mate. Essentially, can Inspired fuck up Blabber's playoff for the millionth time? If yes, then Lion can win. Otherwise, Cloud9 probably should win the split, mate. They actually are just the best team.
Yeah, I do think that especially the last 2 weeks, C9's victories have been more concrete in what their strengths are above other teams, which is nice to see. I did think against Team Liquid they were pretty much in control of majority of it. Like there was like a game where they were behind in gold, but I never thought that they kind of lost track of what they needed to do. Because that's what C9 needs to be. They need to be the smarter team because there are going to be games where they have disadvantages in the early game. And there's going to be games where maybe they get out laned because just on in the micro they are going to be weaker than Team Liquid. They're going to be weaker than FlyQuest, and they're going to be weaker than Lion too. So they need to showcase themselves as a smarter team. I think in this series, when mid game hit in terms of the Drake stacking, I did feel like they maintained control the entire time, and Team Liquid kind of showcasing the same weaknesses. It just, for me, the main thing is like I'm looking at this team, and I just want, I want the real Coach JJ to just please stand up, because like you are the epitome of leadership within your region. I feel like that's what this team is lacking, the controlled aspects of the mid to late game. Because when Team Liquid was at their peak with with KoJJ and Yeon, that's what they were. It's like they won bot lane. That's how they won. The early games if it happened, and they just had stability in the rest of the map. And sometimes they would bleed. APA would bleed, and of course Impact would bleed. But the bot lane was always winning their lane matchups, and they were driving the game through bot lane with Umti, even a weaker jungler than who they have currently. And they managed to, of course, then as the game proceeded, they had good side lane control. They had just good Drake setup, and they were even in as far as thinking back of every kind of alteration with KoJJ. It was kind of always the same things. Like all these Team Liquid KoJJ teams kind of played the same way, except this one. And that's what's so confusing to me. And I'm putting a lot of responsibility on the guy because I have such a high standard for him for what he's done career-wise in North America. But if I want to zoom out more and put blame on someone, I gotta say this Morgan signing has to be one of the worst imports ever. Like this series was terrible. Like Thanatos went for a walk with Morgan, and I do think that it really. It's like the Morgan signing is rough. I can't help but feel that this was a massive miss. I don't know how the process of choosing Morgan so deep into his career, how that even happened. I really can't tell.
No.
It's very strange.
I mean, the most bizarre part. What's baffling to me is this, Yamato, is the Thanatos move's even the perfect contrast to it, because Thanatos hadn't yet become anyone. That's a good gamble. The gambles that are good generally are the ones where essentially, I've told this story before, it's a real story that when Youngbok was the XL coach, he had a guy who had that analyzer tool, and they basically scouted before he was on T1 Zeus, and he was like, we should sign this guy. He's like a sick fucking Korean like challenger player. Let's get him now. One day he'll be good. And then the joke is like, his team was like, nah, we'll just get a European or whatever, right? True. Obviously, you couldn't actually know it's going to become Zeus. But the point there is, that's the best type of scouting for Koreans, in my opinion, is basically you try and get the player before they would have actually even had a chance to explode and become insane, because then you could actually get lucky and have one of the best players in the world. The problem with the Morgan sign, like you say, is he's not even some like player you gamble on. Thanatos is that sort of player. Like maybe Thanatos could be on like KT roster right now. That's plausible to me. The difference is Morgan was always going to be on like DRX, DN Supers, or fucking Breon, mate. He was never going to be on a top team. In fact, this even makes me think, if I'm Thanatos, mate, I am thinking in like a year or two of just going back to the LCK and trying to get on D+ or some shit like that, like get on like a mid-table to top-end team, and I could probably do it. Like this implies I could do it. Because I agree, the Morgan signing is too edgy. What you're basically saying is, you see all that shit that you saw for years and years in the LCK, where at best this guy was okay. And remember, when he used to play with Chovy, he was an actual meme, bro. Him and that Willer guy were absolute fucking clowns when they used to play with Clovey. Chovy used to have to play the best game ever, and they'd still lose to all the top teams, right? If you're going to sign that guy after years of him being on a bottom team, you better have the craziest eye test of all time. Like, we better, essentially, you're saying all of us are wrong, and you've seen something magical about this player that means he can just dominate. Because I actually don't personally buy that thing, Yamato. I do think that talented players who are like trapped on bad teams. I'll give you an example of a Breon player. It ain't Morgan, it's Teddy. Oh, if you put Teddy on a Western team and give him really good players, yeah, it'd be the MVP of the league. The idea of like every bad player from Korea would come and dominate. No, I think actually that's where sadly people like Canna have sort of broken people's brains. Like it's actually bizarre that Canna's so exceptionally good. If anything, he got slightly slept on in Korea. I'll just give people the obvious example. Pioshik actually was just like not very good when he came to Team Liquid, mate. Like that guy was a world champion not that long before. He was kind of ass on Team Liquid. Like that's not, again, you got to be careful which Koreans you sign. Like what's so weird about this one as well to me is everyone knows it's Team Liquid and Cloud9 are the teams that have those stories that if you go back 5-6 years, they actually were each year trying to offer people like BDD and Chovy like fucking spots on their team. Like, hey, I'll give you the giant check basically back when that money existed. You come and play for my team. Those moves I get either doing the player who could be a great player, or you just break the back for the example. Why you sign Morgan? I'm with you. Like that's such a weird move, mate. There's even the joke is you saw this Castle guy just go to Lion. Why aren't they getting a player like that? You know what I mean? Like I'd move on already because the rest of the team I actually think's good. I think in isolation, each of the other 4 players is I've told people I don't think the Johnson guy deserves any abuse in this team. He does a good job. Quid's maybe been a little bit underwhelming the fact that he's not the MVP of the league, but there's no. So to me, yeah, the biggest miss is the Morgan signing, mate. And why they're sticking with it, I have no idea. Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you want to move on? I've got another angle.
No, it's kind of like a repeat of the signing, but top lane,
which they also stuck with for a long time, bro. As well, remember, even long after we all saw it was failing.
It was like they got away with it because they won a split, but then even between the splits, this was something that I called for as a change, and then as things continued, it was just worse and worse, and they had to swap in a jungler, and they lost all momentum. Team Liquid didn't continue to improve, and we already saw the signs the previous year when couldn't keep up with Inspired when they lost to FlyQuest in that summer finals, and in my mind, I think Morgan was just a decision that was too similar to that one. Because the key detail there, right, when we mentioned Teddy or Kana, is like these are players that have showcased insanely high peaks. If you're going to get a player with, a lot of experience already, at least have someone that has had very high peaks and maybe is on a down year, and you imagine a world where you can set them up for success. But Morgan and were painfully mediocre their entire career over at Bro. But it's weird. For me, Bro they are like I just imagine they are like the Korean CIA. They have players on every team. It's like if you look at any Japanese team, any like a lot of the LPL teams, it's like you look, it's like which team did this Korean player come from? It's always a former Bro player. It's always a Bro player. I don't know how they do it. They just send out their agents everywhere.
I do actually have a rare build-related question about this match, though, because, mate, there was an actual war crime in this match. And it's a classic topic people will know about because it's a famous LS rant topic, isn't it? So in the second game, when Team Liquid was facing a fucking Scion that you couldn't do anything against, it was so out of control, like Quid did one of LS's #1 pet peeves, which is, what LS hates is that famous thing where if you tell a mid laner, why did you build this item? You basically mean it rhetorically, because what you mean is, why the fuck would you build that? Like, doesn't even make sense. They will always tell you, but Chovy builds it because Chovy's just so insane at fucking lane. The joke is Chovy can build anything, mate. In fact, people even joke that, like, is Chovy trolling the world sometimes with the picks he does? Because in this case, right, even though what you could have done, Yamato, is build the actualizer and have a chance to actually, as Quid, go crazy in the game. And he chose the classic Chovy Proto Belt. Now, if this is a solo queue game, maybe you can conceive of some play you can make with Rise and a Proto Belt. I don't know what it would be to still win the game. But in a professional game, though, Yamato, I'm not exaggerating, right? That makes no sense. Like, that's like what are you going to get out of that build?
It's I think this is the second time I see it because I think UCal also did this.
Oh, right.
And it must be like, oh, I'm gonna buy Proto Belt, and like the whole champion is balanced around the existence of Actualizer. When Actualizer got buffed, Rise got nerfed preemptively just because it's like everyone buys it. It's a part of his champion, the kit, and so forth. And it's just so. The whole reason why Rise has been so strong this year was that most of the time we had situations where Rise would fall off as the game progressed because of his range difficulties. but his actualizer damage output is so damn ridiculous that he gets away with it as the game progresses. And now he is in a situation playing a Giga Nerf version of Rise that doesn't have phase rush, less damage numbers, less mana numbers, worse runes, and it is all been accepted due to the existence of actualizer, and he sits there and didn't buy the item as third, rather bought it fourth, which was way too late. Insanity. I don't know where the idea comes from. I really don't understand. I get it. It's like, oh, other players buy it, and it's kind of a, you feel instantly the value of the item because you dodge a spell. But it's poison. It's straight poison.
Yeah.
This actualizer shit is especially on Rise, you don't get away with it. This item is simply one of the most broken purchases you can do. What a damage amplifier this is.
No, my logic would be, this would be like if the best ADC in the world, pick whoever you think it is, maybe it's Viper right now, if they just for how they feel in the game having the item without even having to use it, if they just built Guardian Angel like third every time, bro, because they were like, but I can't die then, I can come back. It's like, yeah, but what about the damage items? What about carrying the team fight first? Like, it doesn't make, what you're saying doesn't make sense, because I would even say to Trophy on some of his builds, like, why are you doing it, mate? Like, you don't even need this shit. Like, you're already playing safe in lane anyway, you fuck. Like, why do you build the Proto Belt? Because I'm with you, Yamato. Right now, it's rare in League. One thing I think Riot's done a very good job the last few years with, and I will point out, Fearless does help with this because he can't play 5 games of it, is in the modern day, we don't have that many mid lane picks that feel insanely OP. One of them was Rise with the Actualizer. That's actually broken as fuck. So, you know what's funny about this? I've got like a slightly bigger tangent I can take this on. Because remember, Quid himself is a Korean pro player. This isn't just like, APA doesn't know Korean, so he doesn't know why Chovy does it and just picks it. Quid himself is just picking this just because he's looking at Chovy and going, you're the best Korean and I admire you, so I'm going to copy you. This is one of the areas I actually think people miss about Koreans, bro, which is, when they win Worlds, we all talk like they're unbeatable and they've mastered every aspect of the game. No, one thing about how they understand the game is they do actually understand it in a very sort of formulaic way of thinking. And actually, when they get to the point, as this proves with this build, because I've seen this happen way too many times, bro, once they get to a certain level of understanding, even if they don't know why the person above them does the next thing, they just copy it. They don't, because here's the thing, bro. One thing I'll say about Westerners is this. I think we're stubborn the other way. Like, actually, if something doesn't make sense to me, I won't do it, mate. Like, even if it is working for other people, because I need to sort of understand the mechanism. Like, what am I doing it for? Like, but how is it helping me? Like, unless I can conceptualize it, I would just go with what makes sense to me. So this is actually, I think, a rare instance where you can see sometimes of a blind spot Koreans specifically have, which is they do just look at they think to themselves, whoever the best Korean is, in this case Chovy, everything he does must be right, which actually clearly isn't true. It's also weird, by the way, because let's be real, especially if you think 5-6 years ago, it's why Chovy's always the player we're bringing up. Chovy, a very idiosyncratic player, mate. That's a very unusual mentality towards how you play the game. I always used to say back in the day when he was on like DRX and White, he used to just play like it was solo queue, mate. Like, this guy didn't even look like he gave a fuck about team concepts. He just farmed the mid lane, and if you didn't help him, I mean, the story in DRX was he supposed he didn't even talk. He just play the game as like a mute or something. So it's so bizarre, isn't it? That even because remember, Quid's a pretty good player. He's been an MVP of the league, a champion. Like, the idea this guy's just fucking around, like just building random shit that doesn't make sense. It's a bit of a black pill, man. Like, some pros really not know what's going on.
I think it's just like I have noticed with pros sometimes they don't know how to decipher like what is a meaningful statistic.
Right.
Because like if Chovy plays Rise against, I don't know, like BFX and beats them in 25 minutes and buys a Proto Belt, like that there's no causation there. Like, there's no correlation tied to the damn Proto Belt being good. It's like he could have bought anything and they would have won. So it's just such a poison statistic in terms of what is actually like the difference maker, because it is simply, it's like, oh, this is winning and he won with this. If I do that too, I will also win. But there's so many details to the game. Like for example, they are 10 times better than their opposition in this game. So it's moments like these are definitely, in the past it would drive me insane, but I'm like, this is just a part of the equation at this point, I imagine the Team Liquid staff, they must be going insane, because walking away.
Well, here's the thing,
Yamato. Nuts.
I imagine the Team Liquid staff must be watching that game, tearing their hair out. What could they maybe do that could help with that?
You know,
classic segue.
you know, when thinning starts, it's not just your head that just takes a hit. You know, it's like when your players are building wrong items, or maybe your favorite team is playing like shit. You know, it can really stress you out. It can change how you feel day in, day out. And Hims, of course, makes it simple to take control of hair regrowth with personalized cares that just fit your life. You don't need to do the whole awkward thing of like calling a doctor, getting an appointment, and then it's like they're gonna ask you, "Oh, why do you need it?" It's like, "Oh, it's like, oh, it looks good." And it's like, "Oh, they're gonna do like this whole complicated dance, and you're gonna be like awkwardly in the office." And then I always say the thing where you wait in a waiting room, and then you move you to another waiting room, and in the room the doctor looks at you for 1 second, then he says, "I'll be right back," and then he walks away for 15 minutes, and then he comes into the room, and then you have to have the whole conversation. You're just sitting there, and then in some cases, you know, your wallet disappears, happens, and then that's also a complicated thing because for some reason your pants are off. You know, you can skip all of that. You can skip all of that because Hims is personalized care that happens completely, of course, online. So obviously, you know, there's a lot of noise out there about hair loss, 10-in-1 shampoos, random advice, expensive clinic visits, whatever. Hims cuts it through, you know, all of that bullshit with real trusted treatments and a 100% online process. Hims, of course, conveniently, it gives you access to a range of prescription, you know, hair loss treatments with ingredients that actually work, including chews, oral medications, serums, and sprays. So whatever fits your lifestyle. Doctor-trusted ingredients like minoxidil and finasteride can stop further hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. So you shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. So for simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/LFN. That's hims.com/LFN for your free online visit, hims.com/LFN. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information. Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride.
By the way, since as we've discussed many times on this show, our like shared overlap is obviously the language of Seinfeld, right?
Yeah.
Mate, one of my all-time favorite episodes. Look this up if you've never seen this one before, guys. Is the episode where Elaine has that rash and she's just like she gets called difficult by the doctor and he writes it in her like chart, and then she spends the without spoiling it, she spends the whole episode trying to like reverse that, and she's even doing mad shit that you'd never do. Like, can I just wear one of those gowns? You know, the kind of nice to just throw on every now and then, like the most absurd, like sycophancy, and then it's just not working. And you know, at the end, she's in like some like rural fucking hospital where the guy's got like a pig or something, you know. And then even then, like right when she's about to get treated every time, the phone rings. Remember, and they're like, and it's like, you know, because they're making it like as though it's like the CIA or some shit. Like, yeah, don't treat this woman like it's so bad, isn't it? Like that episode's one of our favorite ones ever. Like when she steals the clipboard and she's trying to write on it in like the elevator, and then the elevator door opens. And there's all those doctors there, like, give me that back. Like, some of those Seinfeld episodes are classic.
Now that I think about it, there's so many doctor-related episodes. I remember the one with George when he gets this appointment, and then when he misses the appointment, and then he still has to pay for the appointment, and then there's a different appointment that his appointment got cancelled, and then the whole dynamic of how their time is so much more important. It's like I'm spoiling a little bit, but George's delivery is so perfect that there's no way of actually spoiling the journey. So many doctors.
By the way, you can just tell for that show, like all Larry David, the guy who wrote the show, did. It's just every time someone pissed him off in real life like that, he just wrote a whole episode about it, didn't he? Like, but it would that we all had a platform to actually do that with. Like, I have to awkwardly butt jokes in a League of Legends context. It would be insane if I could actually do a whole thing about how like checkouts work and all. Yeah, exactly. He was living the dream, mate. He actually got to complain and turn it into awesome entertainment, didn't he? I know. It's mega. Okay, what about this? Let's talk a bit about our home region, EMEA. So there was a bit of news that you linked me to. I will say, you know what? Here's what's funny. There's a weird divide no one's noticed yet in the European League of Legends, which is actually France and Spain also carry two other aspects of our region. So France carries the journalism because all the sheep esports people are basically French at this point in time, all French speaking, and they'll come from that world where they do the. But what's weird is Spain always has all the like rumors that are like spicy though. Have you noticed that? Like esports Manicos type people always have some like absurd rumor that could be true, could be not. It's always hard to know if like, you know, did they just hear it in advance? So one of the ones that's come out of the Spanish scene is apparently Fnatic is actually in talks potentially to sell their shares to football teams. There might actually be like some sort of a connect, which obviously is bizarre because think about it, right? Fnatic is a team that is a classic endemic org. Goes back to the very beginning. Obviously, they won season 1 championship of league. They're actually even a team where, as far as I know, they're not one of those ones like the Americans that took the giant VC. I actually also think they're a team that's been in like, I'll never say they're terrible, but they've had like some financial concerns over the last like 5, 6, 7 years or whatever. You know, they haven't necessarily been the biggest store. So the idea they're going to sell is not that crazy, but this makes me wonder, bro, what football teams buying into League of Legends or buying into esports? Like, it feels like football teams buying in was something from like 5, 6 years ago. It's almost like a pre-COVID topic, bro. So this is a bit of a weird one because it actually does imply like they want to sell. Like they know this is like the time to get someone else in. What do you think about this news?
I imagine, from we talked about it so many times in the whole Fnatic conversation was always like the only thing that is of value right now is the name, right? It's like
Yeah.
Fnatic, the org and the branding that is the only thing that is setting up some form of expectation, and why we are consistently just disappointed with what they are doing to their own reputation and their legacy, because it goes so deep in esports. It's not only like in League of Legends, but it's like in esports. It's so deep, going across multiple big games. In my mind, I could see it from a team standpoint. If Fnatic is in a situation where they are desperate, if you have someone that is desperate and wants to get rid of the financial burden, that is the best time to strike a good deal. I still think, with how everything is moving around the LEC and how it's getting stronger and better, I do think there is an opportunity to get in for cheaper. That's how I imagine it, at least. It's like if Fnatic is actively being the ones that shop around, you have such an advantage there in the negotiations. And if you already have, if it's one of the bigger teams in terms of the money, we had situations where teams over in North America, the operation costs were too high, so the cost of entry became just very cheap because they needed someone to just take over that burden of the financial responsibility. And I don't know how it is now for Fnatic in terms of they have an office of course, in London. They have an office in Berlin that is a massive facility too. They have a lot of financial burdens. Not only like that the spot is expensive, but I can imagine that they are spending 1 to 2, maybe 3 million a year on contracts and employees and everything that is being ran. It's like how deep do you allow that wound to go if you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel? Like if all your teams are not being successful, and Valorant is pretty much the only thing that is carrying, even though they had a pretty soft result recently. It's like the moment the Valorant team starts to underperform and it gets worse, then what do you actually hold on to, and what kind of end do you see in sight? And I think for Fnatic fans, seeing news like this is like the best thing that you can hope for, because you kind of want someone else to step in to kind of revamp and put their spin and their own approach to it, because obviously the problems run so deep that you're hoping that it becomes a complete restructuring of what Fnatic is, because I think that's the only thing that can offer fans some hope at this point in time, because we mentioned it so many times. Any offseason Fnatic goes into is going to be so damn difficult because they have no advantage. This will be like a second win in their sail. And suddenly just having, like, if it's a big team partner, already that can bring you a lot of excitement from player side and also from fan side.
Yeah, here's the thing I'm worried about is what you said there, which is this is more to me almost like a desperation move from the Fnatic side, which actually implies that the reason why these teams might want to buy in is maybe they're getting it for cheap. Maybe this is what you call in America a fire sale. You're just trying to sell it off because you've realized you've tanked it. Because here's what's weird. If you actually wanted both parties to get the most out of this, you should have done this move 2 or 3 years ago. And here's why. Right. First of all, 2 or 3 years ago, the Fnatic org across multiple games was in a way better position. Like, I'll run it down. So first of all, even just over a year ago, they were still a top team in the LEC. They were still an important org. But if you go more importantly, 2 to 3 years ago, so before MKOI and KC, you were still Fnatic. You were still the team that everyone who doesn't join GT, you get the first right of refusal to. You can go to that player and upset whoever it might be and say, join my team. That was still a big thing. So you were very viable. Secondly, if people don't know, in Valorant, the last couple of years, they used to have one of the best teams. Now they also don't have a very good team, by the way. In the same way as in League, now they don't even make the playoffs. In Valorant, they're just kind of like an okay team now. In Counter-Strike, they haven't been relevant for years and years, but still, a few years back, you at least had like an international team. So now you have like a mainly Ukrainian team that's just irrelevant. So across all the games, you've sort of tanked. It's why I saw like a comment that I actually think was so naive. It just shows how fans don't always think these moves through. I saw a fan that, because they were thinking of this like one of those moves like where you buy the slot. This is what the fan was getting wrong. They're thinking of it like where, you know, KC buys the slot of Astralis and then rebrands it to KC. Obviously, they were like, I hope they keep the name Fnatic and don't rebrand. It's like, as Yamato just told you, bro, the only thing you're buying if you buy this team is the fucking name Fnatic, mate. You want to be able to say, we won the ULCS and we won the old CS Major. The only thing you're buying is the history. That's actually the best reason to buy. Otherwise, if you're the football team, you would make it your team. But I agree, you keep it as Fnatic because you want the history of the org. The problem is, though, Fnatic isn't really Fnatic anymore. So that's also why I wish they'd done it 2 or 3 years ago. Here's why. Because if you had done this from a league perspective 2 or 3 years ago, think about what you could have done. You could have taken that money and invested in the exact coaching staff that everyone says you need. Every single coach in Fnatic for the last 3 years has said, we basically need like an expanded coaching staff. By the way, funnily enough, like football. In football, it's not, this is one area fans still get wrong. We all talk about like my boy Mourinho's going back to Real Madrid. It's not really that. I'll tell you a detail about Mourinho going to Real Madrid that'll make my point for me. Supposedly, one of the considerations of why he agreed to do it is he gets to bring his own coaching staff. In the modern day, the coaching staff isn't one person, mate. It's him plus his team of people. Usually it's why actually, if you notice, the new hotness in football has become the assistant coach, hasn't it? It's like, who has the assistant coach that for real could be a main coach instead of just staying as a really good assistant coach? And so you'll see it with Jurgen Klopp and Pep and all those people, their coaches get a chance elsewhere now. So one, you could have already spent the money on that. Two, the other obvious thing you could have spent money on, mate, is if you'd have done this deal 2 years ago, we don't have to sit on people like Oscar Eden or fucking, what's his name? Okay, what's the name of the ADC they had, the Korean one? The one who was playing with John. Noah, there you go. We don't have to play on these, but we could have just bought the best players. Like, we could have made, Fnatic could already still be an elite organization. So, to me, it's just a weird move, because like I say, unfortunately, this one doesn't seem like some mega great news. It's all going to make this makes it seem like the team, football team cynically wants to get in now because it's cheap. And then Fnatic's just sort of in a bad spot. So like, fuck it. Basically, these are the last fumes of Fnatic. So sell it now, get someone else and get the investment in now, because I want to believe you're going to take the money in. It's going to do something wonderful. But the question then becomes, is it still just Sam Matthews and everyone in Fnatic doing it? It's just investment, in which case, does it change anything? Or is it a new set of people and then they get to make a bunch of decisions, but who are the new people? You know what I mean? So this actually isn't that sexy a move for me, unfortunately. It would have been a few years ago.
Yeah, I think only just the management with getting filtered out. Like I would say this would be the akin to like a rogue Navi move,
Right.
but Fnatic 2.0 type move.
Okay.
Like I think that's like the only hope that you just get a new sense of direction for what the team is going to be. Because at least like I'm just thinking from the perspective of like thinking very low of where Fnatic is right now. And I think that any form of clear revival and a step away from the current formula of doing things, I think is a step in the right direction. But it's very early on, and we can only speculate. But I do think the indication, if there's like big sports teams that are still interested, I think that's a good sign. It seems like the LEC at least has been lucky in some of the new partners that have come in. We've mentioned it many times, but KC, Koi, and of course Navi now instead of Rogue is such a step in the right direction in terms of which partners you want in the league, and ideally you want 10 teams that are equally bought into making the league succeed, and also giving their own take on how to be competitively viable, and also of course try their absolute best to actually contribute to the success of the league, because everyone's going to thrive off of each other. But Fnatic, I think as a team, the brand needs to stay 100%, but I just want a different form of management on the team.
Because my biggest problem actually is, like I say, there are at this point, you haven't just let some, you've let almost every advantage you had as Fnatic go. Like the biggest one to me was that one I just mentioned that they let go a couple of years ago, which is the thing that people will forget this now, bro. This shows how badly Fnatic have let it slip. Back in the day, we didn't used to just say, you always take a G2 offer. It used to be G2 and Fnatic were the two offers you always take. Those are the two teams everyone wanted to play for. It's why the most famous example ever was when Perks knew he wanted to play mid lane again, but he knew they're not going to kick caps from G2. His plan was just go to Fnatic, they'll build a squad around me, and then we'll have like a head-to-head matchup. It'll be a classic match, won't it? Whereas now in the modern day, if you look at it, both KC and, in my opinion, MKOI have taken that spot now, mate. Like, you haven't seen it with MKOI yet because they've kept the 4 Spanish players and just Jojo, but I have a prediction for you. I think at the end of this year, one of those two, if not both, of Merwin and Super, one of them's getting kicked, bro. I would actually guess right now it's Merwin, personally. Whoever they kick, spoiler, I don't think they're bringing a Spanish player in. I think they're bringing another international player in. And I think at that point in time, you will see exactly what I'm talking about now, which is they will get the next top name, not Fnatic. Fnatic is going to be stuck now at the position, in my opinion, of the GXs and the Heretics, where it's like, look, you're still, like, you're not the worst dogs. People would, if they want to play an LEC, they'll take your offer, but you're not getting the big names. Like, if you ever see, we've had now Jojo come to MKOI and Busio come over to KC. If we do that to another player, like another NA player gets to come, they won't be going to Fnatic, mate. They'll be going to someone, like I said, like one of these fucking, like a MKOI type team. That's where you'll be getting that player going to. So sadly, I also think that's the other bummer about Fnatic is they didn't realize what an insane advantage they had there. And the craziest thing about that one, Yamato, is that one lasted years and years and years. Like that one kept going well beyond the point. Lastly, the one last thing I'll throw in is this. Because they're no longer the destination to go to, they've also done something a bit similar, if you want to draw the analogy, to FaZe Clan in Counter-Strike, which is once your team actually becomes bad and the players degrade a bit, there's also not, that's the extra reason to join, is to play with the players. Like the reason why in FaZe Clan and Counter-Strike everyone would join is because all the other players were champion level players. In Fnatic, when you even still had Razor, Humanoid and Mickey X, mate, you had some fucking players that were upset too. Like these are all LEC talents. You look at the squad they have now, yeah, they have like 1.5 all LEC players at this point in time. Like, it's not very good. So also people aren't going to join just to win with this squad. So right now, if you're Fnatic, the hope that this investment comes in and you can spend it is about the only positive you've got going for you. Anyway, if you want to actually get paid for being right, not just say things on forums, then watch Fnatic fuck it up over and over and over and over again, why not check out Prize Picks? Especially obviously if you're Americans, it's available in 50 states. They are now an official daily fantasy partner of the NBA. So I can actually also talk about the NBA in this ad, because right now they have something called the Do It Live 2026 NBA Finals Sweepstakes, where you pick live squares during the NBA playoffs and you could win a trip for 2 to the NBA Finals. To enter, just make a $5 lineup with at least one live NBA player pick during any part of the 2026 NBA playoffs. Live player picks are picks that you make after the game is already in progress, because that is a feature of their site. Similarly, if you already have done a pick, by the way, and in the game the player does really well, they also have an early payouts feature where you can actually cash out early before the game even ends. They have all sorts of extra aspects and features, like they have flex and power play, where basically you can actually get paid even if you miss on one of your picks. Check out the flex player one for that one. They have a thing where if you want the biggest payouts, you use something called power play, where no matter your play, it's a way to test out your knowledge in the game and see if you're the best and know what you're doing. And then also you can also stack your picks as well. So you can pick a player, but in multiple different categories. It's not like you can only pick that player for 3-pointers or that player for points or that player for rebound. If you actually have a player like a Wembianas right now, would be a great example. If you just saw that game the other day, you could pick him in a bunch of different areas. You could pick him rebounds and points and 3-pointers or whatever, because obviously he has this like multiple variant modern day game, doesn't he? So download the Prize Picks app today and use code summoning to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. You can guess what I'm going to say now, which is that's code summoning to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineups. Prize Picks, a preferred partner of the NBA. Okay, so one thing I also thought we could talk about in EMEA, EU, is obviously we didn't have any games this last week. We had the week off, didn't we? And now this weekend we have got the playoffs, right? I will now use this as a moment to cross-promote. So if you don't know, we have a show called Hot Take Point Made League of Legends, where me, Zabatine, and Kiri come up with crazy hot takes. And one of the hot takes that I think's a bonkers one, I think it was actually Kiri's take, is he had that Vitality just loses both matches in the playoffs and gets eliminated. So he has them losing to MKOI and then losing to GX and just being because he thinks they're like frauds and they've been exposed and they're just regular season match. Right. The reason why I bring this up, Yamato, is I know how the last homestand went, and I know people think MKOI's coming online a bit like G2 and they're getting it together. But I was very shocked, I have to say, Yamato, when I saw these matches and the bracket announced, and I saw that when Vitality's against MKOI, at the time of recording, Vitality is the betting underdog, bro. MKOI is actually the favorite now on that one. Isn't that crazy? I thought Vitality. Here's the thing. For me, I get why people might favor G2. I get that. That story's played out my time. I thought people were going to give Vitality their due though. So I want to know, first of all, this matchup. It's a spicy one. What do you think happens when Vitality plays MKOI? Who do you favor?
I'm like if I'm going to like I favor Vitality, definitely. I would keep it very close though, due to two specific things. Vitality in BO5s, winning 3 games is a whole different beast. It's like in terms of Vitality, in terms of how their draft phase kind of fizzles out, the longer series goes. We've seen that too many times for me to believe that that's not going to be a potential problem. And at the same time, the weird thing about the whole schedule is like, when's the last time we actually saw Vitality play? I'm going to just pull up their match history. It was damn. Like they're going to have 3.5 weeks of break.
Yeah, true.
which is kind of crazy. It's the meta has shifted a lot. We're playing on a different batch, and these could be the scary things in conjunction with Vitality, because the other teams, especially in the top 4, just have more collective experience in terms of playing these best of 5s and doing deeper runs. But in terms of like individual play, in terms of actually play in the game, I think Vitality has them beat every time. Like we even saw in the EWC qualifier, like sure it's the EWC qualifier, so it doesn't matter too much. But like let's go back further when Vitality played the MKOI in the regular split. It's like I just think in isolation, I think of Naknako versus Midwin in the matchup. Like that is already such a big advantage I give to Naknako that already that's going to be very tough to overcome. And I do think that Flashy and Linsask match up to the strengths of MKOI very well. The big advantage MKOI have is Jojo Pune over Humanoid. I think Jojo Pune just had way higher highs and is playing better than Humanoid, and that is something that you can leverage. But beyond that, I feel like this is going to be a very, very close matchup. And if I had gun to my head, had to pick someone based off of most recent play, I would lean slightly towards Vitality. But I think MKOI is given a lot of credit due to their G2 victory. But I tread lightly on that one due to, of course, the nature of the importance of that match, the timing that it was. Because G2 was a different beast that third day. I feel like on the Madrid roadshow.
I will say this, right? Obviously, if you see Vitality, they are, even though they were the #1 team, a team that will give the opponent a game in each series that they have a chance to win. Like, they definitely have a game that they either lose their heads a bit or they draft really weird. So even with their wins, they've had a lot of like 2-1 games and a lot of games like in the same way as they could have beaten KC, they could have lost some of the games too that they won 2-1. So I will say they're not like some dominant team that I'm super confident about. But when I look at their squad, I'm with you. First of all, the biggest mismatch in the server is Naknako versus Merwin, mate. Like that should actually be a complete bloodbath. That's like a mega win for Naknako right there. You can argue Naknako is the best player in the entire LEC. He's looked fucking amazing the whole split. So there's that angle. Then also, mate, another thing people are forgetting about this one is I think Kazi gaps fucking Super this split. When we talk about Super's had some mad sketchy games where he wasn't even like Super. Super used to be a fairly reliable carrying team fights. Like he's had some nightmare fuel games, mate. Whereas Kazi's definitely been classic Kazi, like high and low variance. But when he has his games, mate, he can look really good. So I'm with you. I do think there are angles for MKOI. They're actually quite obvious. It's Jojo has to win mid hard. Then Elyoya has to be better than Lynchas. So those are impossible win conditions. But here's my reason why I take Vitality to win. One, I actually think Vitality just as a team team has played way better, and they seem like they have. I know people don't like to do this level of analysis. Like, they have a vibe, bro. They don't just have, like, we're good players and we play together, or we play together because we're coached well. They actually genuinely seem like they sort of, like, intuitively play well off each other, if you know what I mean. Like, it has been amazing to reunite Humanoid with Kazi. They just clearly had the same sort of vision for the game. You look at how Linchas has played with Humanoid, it's night and day compared to how he was with the other mid laners they had in the past. So, to me, I already think that the whole, like, Jojo has to play awesome. I don't think Humanoid even has to be better than Jojo. He just has to match him, bro. And if he does that, I think Vitality wins. So unless this is going to be the craziest, like, El Yoya masterclass from minute 1 to minute 20 every game, I think Vitality wins this, mate. It's a BO5 as well. So, like, I'll even say I think they win like 3-1 or something. I think they drop a game because they couldn't do that. And you'll get at least one game where Jojo has like a lane lead or fucking nice pick. El Yoya gets a nice early game going. And lastly, I'll tell you the one last thing I'll throw in that no one's thinking about right now, Yamato. Normally, I would always on MKOI big up Alvaro. I'm a big fan of his game. This is not the meta for Alvaro, mate. Like, he's having a hard time himself right now. So I'm actually, like I say, I'm low-key shocked so many people. I think it's just because of that homestand. People are just, they want to believe, just like G2, that MKOI also just glows up every time they get to the playoffs. I don't know about that one. I think Vitality gets them on this. I'm with you, mate. I think the upset happens. I think Vitality. I don't, by the way, we're going to talk now about KC G2. Spoiler, I actually think the two teams that are going to MSI is G2 and Vitality now. Like, we'll talk about KC for a reason why now, but, like, I think those are the two best teams. I think actually it's real. I think Vitality was the best of the whole split. And I think at the end, G2 did the classic where they won your respect back, clawed it back. And at the end, they looked good. They just looked like they could actually be probably the best BO5 team again. So, anything more on Vic? Should we go to the KCG2 one?
I'm just thinking about the Kire like hot take.
Yeah, I think it was his take.
Because, like, you know, if it's a world where if someone wants to argue MKOI is gonna beat Vitality based on the criteria I mentioned before, yes, I can see that. But they're gonna lose to Na'Vi.
Listen, that's where, to co-opt the Zuma language, that's where you could say he overcooked the hot take. Like, it was a really good hot take before, he overcooked it a little bit. Because I know what you mean. The idea they're going to lose to GX, it's like, child, please. Like, mate, I don't even think Noah goes to sleep and dreams of that. He just dreams of losing a really close 2-3 series. You know what I mean? Like, they're not winning that series, bro. In what world? Listen... to be fair, though, that's how you know he did a good job with the hot take. Because if the hot take, 1, seems just wrong, 2, hot, and it annoys you, then it was a great hot take, wasn't it? That's the point of that show. And if anyone watches it, we always joke on that show, because Zabatine's generally a reasonable person. He just accidentally does the hot takes. On this actual episode, I'll give you one last bit of hype for it. He gives the craziest hot take ever. So all I'll do is tell you the hot take. We're not even going to talk about it. We're just going to move straight on to KC versus G2. Listen to this hot take. His hot take is that because China, you know, is doing all those social policies that restrict people from playing the game, and in Korea, Arnold's complained there's no new stars. His hot take is, in 5 years, France will be the country that produces the most talent in League of Legends. Again, we're not even going to give that the time of day. Go watch the episode if you want to see. Like, that might be the hottest take ever said by anyone ever, bro. Like, that one is unbelievable, isn't it? He didn't even overcook. He just brought a flamethrower in the room and then threw water on a chip pan fire. Like, that is such a nut. But anyway, check that episode out. So, let's now talk about the other matchup, because the other matchup, by the way, remember, is last split finals. This was the awesome match in both the upper and the final that ended up being a banger. It was KC versus G2, right? The obvious problem here is this, Yamato. KC, for most of the split, actually did, just behind Vitality, sort of occupy. They were like probably top 2 the whole time. The obvious question now becomes, I think most people agree with what I just said earlier, which is G2 proved that they're back, though. They're ready to, again, be the team to beat, and everyone has to beat them before you can believe they can win the LEC. Who do you favor for this matchup?
I think G2 just has KC's number through and through. Like, every time they face off G2, I feel like G2 is actively getting better, and the only thing that is kind of holding them back at some point is just like form issues. I don't think they're like peaking individually right now. We're like, oh, Skewmont can have an off game, which is like fine, because you like trust the G2's consistency. I think that Caps is in really good form. I think that he plays better than the opposite mid laner, which is already a very tough starting point. And on top of that, it's the same conversation as we had about the LCK, right? I do think that KC is such a good comparison to Gen.G because individually they can do very good things. If they get to the team fights, they can beat anybody in the league in the team fight easily. But to get there, there's a lot of mid game in the in between, and that's where they get caught. That's where they get killed. That's where they get murdered because I think the jungle support synergy isn't sharp enough on this team. And I think that you can see that in the early game, and you can see in the way the game progresses too. Yike plays a very solo-oriented game, a very desperate game almost, where if the enemy jungle support has control over the game, he plays very isolated. And I think Busio, in terms of keeping tempo and keeping track, I also don't think he does a super good job. I think like that transition from playing with Inspired and then playing with a very different jungler, I think is a very different state of mind and a different expectation to you because Inspired played a very farm-heavy game where he doesn't need a lot of help from support, and support was just there to protect the dives. And now, in terms of progressing the game with jungle and support, it just isn't there on that same level. So KC, really good lane phase, really good team fight. The in between, that's exactly where G2 is better than everybody else, and that's where they beat Gen.G even in the in between with the jungle and support. And I think as long as that's true, which I think it will be for the entire year, because I think catching up to G2 right now is not going to happen because Casey isn't getting better in that department. We
Yes.
just see the individual performances going in and out. It's like we see like Caliste performing insane to keep them in some series. It's always how Casey win is either they win the lane phases or it's a miraculous team fight that they pull off, which is a very good starting point. And I do think in most cases I would be excited about something like that because the macro can be improved, but the macro has been so stagnant on this team for too long for me to have any major hopes about them, just finding a new peak there. And I think the G2 just has the number. And it's like, it's fun how the KC fans are trying to pull this angle. It's like, G2 is not screaming us, they're afraid of us, but they just have your number in every damn game that they play. So,
Yes.
even that EWC qualifier, you can like, obviously, I do think that the stakes are high simply because of the pedigree of like KC and G2 just playing against each other and just having the angle to be able to talk shit about the other team and so forth. So I do think the stakes run high in those games. But G2 came out of early game. If they were ahead, it was just completely over. If they were behind, they would figure out ways to come back into the game. And it just seemed like KC couldn't win out the game no matter what the state was after 20 minutes. And that's a very difficult mountain to climb. I don't think that KC is going to do it this time around.
Yeah, the big bobber about KC, I'm with you actually, is I only think it's like I said with that setup. Well, because Vitality sparkled right at the beginning of the split, KC just got to sort of be the default number two because MKOI and G2 both looked crap early on. But it was mainly that those teams looked crap. It wasn't like KC took an extra step. If anything, the biggest bomber about KC has been first split. I give them very high marks, bro. That's like an A- or something. Great GMing, excellent pickups. Like the Busio pickup looks great. Even the mid lane guy for the first split, that was fine. The problem is, in this next split, I need to see two things like you just talked about. One, the Kiao guy needs to actually be a real contender for one of the best players in the league. Because remember, every single contender team, the joke is even now Vitality has a mid laner that's probably going to be better than him, unfortunately. If you put him against Humanoid Jojo or Caps, unfortunately, I'm going to give them the edge. They're proven players that I know can do it. The Kiao guy didn't make much progress to me. He just looks the same player. He's not bad, but of all the leagues in the fucking world, Europe is not the league where you want to have your weakest player at mid lane. Like, that's going to be, you could do that maybe in the LCS. There's times Korean teams have done it with people like Kuro and Zika, etc. You can't do that in Europe, bro. The whole game of Europe's always been jungle mid. It always will be. Then also, let's add in, when you added Busio, right, he was trying to do some of those players last split that he made in FlyQuest famously with Inspired that were awesome. You know, where you would do like Nikki X style, where you do like the fake, like pretend you're a jungler and do the lane gank for top, etc. That looks dope when you get it off. Mate, those players have gotten way more spotty. Like, you can tell, actually, I think they have some comm issues in this team sometimes, bro. Like, sometimes it looks like he doesn't go when he should, or he goes when he shouldn't, and the other teammate didn't know what he was going to do. So I think, actually, KC, for me, the strength of the roster is what's kept them up. Like you say, they have players like Caliste that can carry a game if you give them enough of a lead. But I think if you go and look at them compared to G2, it's only because G2 had bad games people have forgotten what players they have. Like, if I look at the positions, bro, the only positions I think they're better at is top lane and ADC, and the ADC one's not as big as people think. Like, I actually think people are thinking of like last split, bro. By the end of the split, I actually think Labrov's had a quietly good split, and I actually think and Sam ended up being fine, as he always is. He never really is actually like just a full-on bad player. He might have the odd game that's not good. Caps is actually playing quietly really well. Also, that's actually an excellent one. So I think you got a big edge in mid, and then listen, the jungle one isn't even a match for me. I'm sorry. In the same way as Inspired runs fucking Blabber's life, fucking Skewmons is going to fucking dumpster Yike. What are we talking about? Like, Yike's all right, but I've never thought like he got full control of the team. Like, he has some captain elements because he's a veteran, but he never looked like he had that inspired grip of like everyone does what I want all the time. So sadly, I actually do think KC, here's the difference. KC against MKOI or Vitality, that's a banger series. I can't wait to watch it. I think actually this G2 one's going to be boring, man. I think G2 is just going to cruise to the victory and probably just look excellent. Like, also, again, I've said it for the millionth time though, whatever that coaching staff does in G2, they should write the book on how you run a regular split, bro. This is the best team I've ever seen at min-max in the regular split. But then by the time you get to the playoffs, looking like it didn't cost you anything. Like, if anything, actually, like the old super team, maybe it was good to give people a break or a week where you're not going so hard or starting, like a bit like T1. They always say they start later when they practice, so they always start the split. I imagine it's a similar thing with G2. It looks like they don't stress people, mate. Whereas the difference is, actually, I do think some of the other teams out there have the really old school mindset of you just grind from day one, and then sometimes you're burned out by the time you get to like the upper bracket final or something, So I think G2, what a masterful split again. I don't know if they'll win it yet, but the way they've done the regular season, they got away with it again. When you get away with it every time, that's a skill, that's a talent, bro. It's not luck. No one could be this lucky. Every time, I mean, I even thought they got me again, bro. In the same way as T1 always makes me think they're not going to win Worlds. This particular split, before that homestand, I was so sure they're going to blow this homestand. And it's the one time they fucking, and they didn't. As usual, they just turned up and looked great. And Caps leveled his game up. Oh, they're too good, mate. Fair play to G2. Yeah. They're just too good.
That's why I was so surprised. Like everyone assumed that Caliste would just re-sign with KC. And I can argue for reasons why he should, but that like the fact that G2 consistently put together such great teams and they managed to get the most out of their players. Yeah. It's like everyone seems to peak out of their mind on the G2 roster, and that has a lot of appeal because now Caliste is signed till 2029, of course. But imagine in hindsight, if in 2029 we'll go back and look at all the years of G2 just continuing to dominate due to the structure that they've set up in the first place. It will look like a very, very bad decision.
Yes.
And there's a high chance of that happening because, G2 just has so much consistency and credibility in this department.
No, I'll even give you, this is another reason, in my opinion, why Caliste actually fucked up here, bro. Because in my opinion, he's the one who had all the leverage now, Yamato. So unless he got, because I can't know the terms yet, unless he just got extra overpaid because he signed early, that would be the one consideration, in my opinion, that's fine. Also, aside from G2, because he's the next best org to be in, as they've shown you with the Busio move, they're going to bring people in. I imagine if Kiao doesn't work out, they'll bring you a better mid laner. That's all true. My problem is I'm with you. Here's why I would have waited till the offseason if I was Caliste. Because one, the option was always there to still sign with KC. You could still do that. But the reason why I would have waited for G2 is because if you look at it, it looks like they purposely set the Hans Sama contract up to expire, which tells both Hans Sama, you better play fucking awesome at Worlds. And then it tells Caliste, if you're ready, we've got the squad here, mate. We've got your Skewmon, we've got Caps, we've got the players you want. So here's the angle that I have for them, is I think Caliste fucked up in this sense. If it's true he's re-signed, because technically that just said he was planning on re-sign. I don't know if he has yet. I assume it'll be announced, by the way, publicly when he does sign. But it's implied he's going to do it. Here's why I wouldn't do it right now. I actually think for Caliste specifically, this is the worst time to re-sign. Here's why, Yamato. Because all he's done is do first stand last year, which even started dodgy, remember, and then do Worlds. That's it. Oh, he didn't even do Worlds. Sorry, he didn't even make it Worlds. So he's done nothing else. Here's the bomber. What happens if what we just discussed happens? What if happens if Vitality nicked the second MSI spot? So you sat at home, you didn't go to first stand, you don't get MSI. I assume he'll go to Worlds. I assume they would be at least top 3, right? If you go to Worlds with this squad, I'm sorry, I think you get put out in the Swiss system. You probably go 2-3 or 1-3. I doubt you beat any Korean and Asian team in a best of 3. Like, there's a lot of fucking amazing teams again. Like, actually, both LPL and LCK are deeper than they've ever been at this point in time. So, sadly, I don't think you do things. So, if I did that and then after Worlds, I could then go if I'm Caliste. Oh, this team isn't ready to win yet. I'm ready. I'm about ready to go supernova. If I could then pivot and go and take Hans Sama's spot, mate, and I'm in the playoffs every year, I'm going to be at every MSI. Fuck it, I'll be at first stand in the finals. Like, I know what you mean. That's the difference. Is you could easily say how in even 1 year, if you're Caliste, you could look back, shit. I wanted to believe in KC. I wanted to believe the project, but I actually had a better offer there. I could have gone with the G2 one. I could already be winning, or I could already be doing, because I'm pretty sure if you watch people like Skewmon, he came in before Skewmon. Skewmon's been in a final already, boys. He's been Gen.G. That's the shit you dream of if you're Caliste. So I know what you mean. I don't blame him on the one hand. It's cool to stay with one club and to be loyal, and they are a really good team. But I know what you mean. Down the line, that might be one of those things where you look at in 3 years and go, shit, that was the chance. I could have changed my whole career trajectory. Anyway, what about, you know how I said earlier that Zabatine and Kire, they overcook? Well, you know what sponsor they should get with? Obviously Factor. Because if they had Factor, they wouldn't need to cook at all, would they? It's easy. First of all, no need to get so hot-headed. It already comes chilled. And then all you do is just pop it in the microwave, a couple of minutes, there you go, it's available, isn't it? So it's easy to get, it's delicious. I've actually used Factor before. It's actually really cool. I've told people it's easily the best microwave meals I've ever had in my entire life. Yamato and Dom have used it in the past. Also, they've got all these different elements about if you're thinking about your diet. One, people already know about doing meal prep. First of all, meal prep, you still have to actually prepare the food, by the way. You don't have to do that at all. The meal already comes. Secondly, the worst thing about meal prep is, this is why you can tell people are doing it on some other thing than for food, bro. They're always like thinking it's hilarious that they've prepped the same meal for every single day for a whole week. That's a nightmare. Like, you're going to get really bored of your diet if it's the exact same food every single day. What you want is to be able to have variety. You want to be able to have different spices, and then you want to have different cuisines. They have all of that on Factor. They have all different world cuisines. You can have stuff from Asia, the Mediterranean. Then they have all your special profiles depending on how you want to eat your particular nutrition. Do you want to have like a keto-friendly diet? Do you want a protein diet? Maybe you're working out. Do you want something where, whatever it might be, you can attune all these aspects. Even cooler as well, the way the system works is you can switch up. Like, maybe you start out doing one of those and you decide I want a different profile of food and flavors. Then you can switch up. You can go online. You can pick different ones. Also, you can do all sorts of extra other features. Like, you can have all add-ons. You can get salads. You can put in things like elot corn, miso edamame. They have 70 plus add-ons to round out your nutrition. They have green juices, peanut butter, energy bites. They have a billion things. And as I said, it's ready in 2 minutes. So you don't have to order something on an app and wait for it to come. You don't have to cook the food yourself and take all the time and mess it up. You don't have to do any of this. You just get it. It's already ready. You know what it is. You have a bunch of different choices. You pop it in. A couple of minutes, you've eaten it. You're back into your solo game. You're back into your revision, doing some schoolwork, watching a TV show, spending time with your family, and it saves you some time and tastes really good, like I just said. So head to factormeals.com/LFN50 off and use code LFN50 off to get, you guessed it, 50% off and a free daily greens per box with new subscription only while supplies last until the 27th of September 2026. See website for more details. So that's factormeals.com/LFN50 off. Use code LFN50 off to get 50% off and a free daily greens box while stocks last, etc. Right, okay. What about this then? At the end, I thought maybe we just do like 2 questions from fans and then we'll wrap for this one. It's going to be a bit of a shorter one, but don't worry. Next week, we'll come back and go hard on the LPL and we'll do a bunch of other shit and we'll go into all the topics. Also, hopefully, there's more drama. It was actually quite a light drama. Shout out to KeSPA for just announcing that completely fraudulent lineup last minute. That was a secret T1 remake with Canyon, just there for no reason. So if you want to ask questions of us on this show, you subscribe to Last Nation Discord. There's a channel once you do that called SI Questions, and we just pick from that, and we do sometimes go back. We just pick the ones that are interesting, basically. So let me see. Here's a good one. This is a classic question, but it's a fun one, Yamato, because it's more about how you think about the game. World Champion Pioshik, that's the name of the guy, by the way. So already you know some troll shit coming out. We've got some outrageous fans on our channel, I know. If you could clone a player 4 times to create one full LOL team, classic question, Yamato, e.g. a team of 5 fakers, 1 in each role, which player would have the best team? It's actually a fun one because think about it, there's no right answer to this one. It's seeing how you think of the game. So who if we clone them 5 times could actually play and their team would be the best? Who would you pick?
It's got to be a mid laner. Like, fuck every other role, that's for sure. It's going to be a mid laner. I think that the first natural answer would be either Chovy or BDD. I can imagine the rate that these players would learn other roles on. Like I have seen the role swaps be so successful, whether it was Extinct moving to top lane or Perks moving to ADC. I think that they like a mid laner switching to any other role would just have so much relief about how much easier it is to play these roles. And I think naturally you're just going to select whoever you think is going to be the best mid laner. Like you're going to pick Knight, BDD, or Chovy. And then I think whoever we're cloning, we're winning worlds, bro. Pick one of these three.
I've picked a different one. Do you want to hear the most based? Listen, it's going to sound mad, but the more I explain it, the more it'll make sense. And it's actually mad based. Are you ready?
Okay.
Xiaohu.
Oh, wait.
So first of all, you ready? Listen, first of all, I've got top and mid sorted, mate. He's already done that.
Easy.
So there's 2 positions. Then secondly, for jungle and support, I mean, he's a pretty intelligent player. I could believe this guy can shot call. He can read the game. And then are you ready for the last one of all? You're going to think, Thorin, how are you going to crowbar ADC? He's a Lucian main. Not bad. That's not bad to you at all. Now, listen,
you need a cloning machine and a time machine, though. Like, we need to go.
I was going to say, my problem there is, one, I'm on some KeSPA shit. I'm picking Canyon from 5 years ago. And then secondly, yeah, if it's today, I don't even know if he could play mid lane appropriately today. Like, so no, yeah, true. I have to go back in time, like 4 years to something you out. But 4 years ago, that's a pretty base lineup. That's actually like a would think of that one.
2021 would be great. Xiaohu was easily the best top laner when he played for a chill year. I like it. I like it. Plus, the mid laner and the role swaps. Anyone who doesn't pick a mid laner is trolling.
By the way, I actually do think of the names you pick, though, because by the way, for similar reasons, I also wouldn't pick Faker. I'll give you an example. I think Faker would get destroyed top lane, mate. Like a really long lane where you don't get all the jungle attention. Like that would be really hard for him in the modern day. Right now. Yeah, that's also pretty brutal. What if his hands are having a bad day, you know? But I'll tell you the one I actually think is this other sleeper pick. It is BDD, mate. If you look how BDD plays mid, it's fucking phenomenal. Like his level of control and his poise is crazy. I could actually believe he could play both ADC and top. I'm not even trolling. I will say, like, that's why I picked the Xiaohu one. The hard one with any mid laner is who the fuck knows how they do as a support or something like that. Like, we're just purely guessing for that one. The problem, if you go the other way as well, is there aren't many jungles and supports that you could actually believe could play the other roles, right? Like, I'll give you an example. Maybe Carrier could play mid. Maybe he could even play ADC. Could he play top lane? It's so alien compared to what I see him do. I can't even conceive how it would work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, that's a good question, though. It's always a classic. I will say that we do the same thing in Counter-Strike, because in Counter-Strike, you also have to do the same thing. All you do in Counter-Strike is you just pick whoever you think the best well-rounded rifler is, like someone who could do like supportive elements. So it'd be like Nico or something like that would have been the pick back in the day, if you know what I mean. It wouldn't actually be simple or something like that, because they'd be totally inappropriate, like half the roles, wouldn't he? He'd just be a dickhead to himself. And my joke would be, even though this isn't technically part of it, even though they mean you just pick clone them all, certain people have a bad attitude. The joke is Simple wouldn't be able to get along with 4 other Simples. You know what I mean? Like, same in this case, like, I don't know that I'd want to put like 5 fucking wonders together. Would they even play the game? You know what I mean? Like, who knows at that point in time? Who knows? So the next question, we'll do one more and then we're going to get out on this one. So the last question will be, oh, this is a fun one. Fede says, a genie gives you the opportunity, listen up, to select 3 guests. Now, he's done it for both of us. So for me, it's for Reflections, my series. For you, it's Voice of Yamato. So we can pick 3 guests. Listen to the rules. 1 can be any living person, so someone alive. 2, you get 5 minutes of prep, but it gets released with no edits, and it has to be 3 hours long. 3, you can pick 1 musician, 1 actor, 1 sports person if you want. So they have to be alive. You get 5 minutes to prep, and you can pick a musician, an actor, or a filmmaker, or a sports person. Who are the 3 people you want on Voice of Yamato? I'm assuming he means it shouldn't be esports people, obviously. So who are you picking?
I feel like you have thought about this question a lot more than me, so I need some time here. You haven't? Really?
Well, put it this way. You can pick a musician. So are you picking your boy Kendrick? Is it someone like that? Would you pick someone like that?
Kendrick right away, because it's like 5 minutes prep time. I already have like so many questions.
Yeah, it's going to be something you already know, isn't it?
Exactly. And also he's like a person that almost never does interviews. Like he's done like maybe 1 or 2, like with Rick Rubin or whatever. But like he's a very mysterious person. Yeah. And I would have like an endless amount of questions because that would be like a good starting point. You know, and anything anywhere else that would be crazy. Or I would like do a crazy ones. Like I think it's like this person is dead, but there's conspiracy theories about them being alive. And then it's like Tupac gets
Okay.
from Cuba, gets swapped in, and he has to do a voice of Yamato, you know. And then we get to I just flip a coin to see if he's alive. And then
of all the ways it gets announced that Tupac is still alive, like 30 years later, he appears on an episode of Voice of Yamato on YouTube. Like, seems like a bit of a reach, but okay, fair enough.
You go.
Yeah, go on then. I've got my three. So I've done, like you said, one of each three categories. So what I would pick is, I'll go in reverse order. The sports person, I actually would just pick Ronaldo. And the reason why is, I actually think, if you ever watch him do interviews, he has that problem where his English is good enough to understand the person and to basically communicate. But if you notice, he's got mildly scoffed English still, because he spent so much of his career in Italy, Spain, now he's in fucking Saudi Arabia. So he speaks English, it seems to me, like just generally, you know, for business reasons and for people in interviews. But I actually notice he's one of those people where people just ask him the same questions, bro, that aren't interesting. Like, one of the secrets of my career has been, I will actually, as prep, watch interviews of that person with other people, so that when I do my question, I can almost signal to the person, like, don't say this part, because I already heard that elsewhere. And I know you already said this. I'm sort of telling the person, don't take the first right, not the second right. It's after the roundabout. Go. I'm trying to tell them to go to where they haven't been yet. So I actually think I could get more interesting shot out of Ronaldo than anyone else has. I actually think people have done a very... the problem he has in his case is because he already is viewed as cocky. People just ask very basic questions and hope he gives them a great soundbite. I think you could get into some really interesting shit with him of like I would ask him literally specific stuff. Like, did you ever used to do stuff like when you were playing, did you used to watch Messi and see what he was doing, or see like, oh shit, did you ever look at the goal totals and see, right, he's on 29, I'm on 28, shit, I need to score a hat-trick. I'd love to know shit like that, you know, like that'd be really interesting stuff. Then also for the actor / filmmaker, you might not know this guy, it's a bit more obscure, but I would actually pick this filmmaker called Robert Eggers. It's the guy who did this film, The Northman, The Lighthouse, Nosferatu. He's already done 4 films. The other one was called The Witch. We did a whole series this on LFN, actually, on the 4-player series. He's just a guy where what makes him really interesting, Yamato, is why I'd love to interview him, is he has like the most unique perspective on filmmaking I've ever seen. First of all, he works every time with this amazing cinematographer who's like incredible with light and making it look a very specific way. But he's famously said he'll never do a modern movie because he actually thinks in the modern day things like having cell phones and he thinks they like ruin the way stories work. So he only wants to do movies that are period pieces. Like his upcoming next movie, by the way, is going to be about like a werewolf in like a medieval village or something bad. So he's only in theory going to do fantasy type films from the past. So that already seems like a really interesting guy. Like, I'd love to know like what inspired that, like what made him think he can't ever do modern things. And then lastly, if you have to pick a musician, a bit like you with the Tupac one, I would pick, there's a Scottish electronic duo called Boards of Canada. I don't know which one I'd pick because they don't do interviews, bro. So whichever one of them does the interviews, I'd like to do an interview with them because they actually are one of the most interesting musical groups ever. Because even though they're like super cult classic, the joke is they've only ever played something like 3 live gigs. It was 20 years ago, bro. Like, they don't play live gigs. They don't appear. There's only something like 4 or 5 pictures of them on the internet. They're actually for real recluses who live in some like fucking weird place in the north of Scotland, and they just like on some actual like fucking legend shit. Like, people only meet them every now and then. They have like a weird art collective they live in. So that just sounds super fascinating, man. I'd love to get into someone's head like that. Like, I'll give you an example. The music has been in like massive documentaries and movies, but they're still not like world famous in the same way. So again, these are just people I think would be really people I'm interested in anyway. Like you, by the way, I wouldn't need any research. It's all people I've been obsessed with anyway. And these are just the people I'd love to interview in a show. Look, again, though, I do like the question because the idea, it's like reflections, will Ronaldo 1 out of 3? Like, see, not really a tweet you're ever going to see, is it? Let's be real. Who are you picking then, Yamato? What the other 2 are you picking?
I would follow up with like my mind instantly went to Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He was just like the person that I followed any team that he was on, like growing up, like in Sweden is just too massive, and I like.
Sure.
It would just be very easy for me to talk and ask questions for 3 hours, no problem at all with Zlatan Ibrahimovic. In terms of the actor / this is a tougher one. You know, this is definitely a tougher one. Like the first place that my mind went to was just Christopher Nolan, but I know that he is a very very abrasive person. But I feel like maybe I could have fun with it, because it's like a lot of like half theories, half questions I have about all of his movies, and I think I could go down the rabbit hole with the guy. But I haven't seen if he's like has done a lot of interviews or not. He seems to be very specific in his work, but I feel like those type of people are the most interesting. The people that just have a clear vision and are so, let's say, stubborn, but in a way that where they deserve credibility for
Yeah.
their stubbornness. I have a deep respect for that, and his like all his films, like even if you go all the way back to like Insomnia or whatever, like
Course.
less known movies, there's just
Yeah.
so much depth to them that I would have a lot of
Yes.
questions for sure.
Yeah, if people don't know, there's actually a little detail about Christopher Nolan that's key to understand, which is, as far as I know, he actually married the woman who is his producer. And as a result, he has like an unlimited amount of control on movies that a normal director doesn't get, because normally the producer's there to sort of be your handler for the studio. So, yeah, that'll be very interesting. Anyway, it's going to be a short episode this time around. We'll be back next week to talk more on Summoning Insights. So, see you then.